Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our December 10th City of Placerville Council meeting. Will you please all rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can we have roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Clarici?
Here.
Councilmember Gottberg?
Here.
Councilmember Saragosa will be noted as absent. Mayor No?
Here.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that moves us to ceremonial matters. 3.1, State of the City Address. That's me. Good evening, Placerville. It has been an honor to serve you as the mayor this year. It's truly a privilege that my council members allowed me this opportunity, and I have really enjoyed it. But this speech is mostly about our entire community's accomplishments. I want everyone to know we have the most incredible staff. I mean, second to none when it comes to dedication. I could spend the evening talking about that, but I really do want to stress and let you know that we just have the most incredible staff. We have citizens who are passionate and involved. We always have people here. We have people on us with every issue, and we really do appreciate that. We appreciate having that involvement, the letters, everything. We have business owners and employees who come and care and support this community, and this is a place I'm proud to call home. I also want to thank the people sitting next to me. You don't want a council who thinks the same on every issue, but you do want a council who can come to a consensus and always with a mutual desire to make Placerville a better place. I believe this council has worked through issues well. Adding to our leadership team this year are two new department heads, Melissa McConnell, our city engineer, and Dennis Nishihara, our community service director. Next year, we'll have two more department heads and a new city manager as people retire. I want to thank the city manager, Cleve Morris, our chief of police, Joe Wren, who's not here, and our finally retiring Director of Developmental Services, Pierre Rivas, all for staying longer to allow for a smoother transition, which goes back to the dedicated staff we have. They all have been incredible leaders in navigating the last 4 years and the many challenges we've had. Despite a slowing economy in 2024, we continue to tackle projects. Broadway has just been overhauled. The city pipes, pavements, and sidewalks are all new. New businesses are coming to Apple Farm Place, thanks to Leonard Grado. There's a beautiful new mural on Broadway, thanks to Supervisor Wendy Thomas and her mom, Judy Puthuff. If you haven't been up Broadway lately, you really need to go take a look. There's some big accomplishments there. The Placerville Drive project designing is underway. That will be the next big project moving forward. Broadband is coming to Placerville, thanks to Cleve Morris and the IT department. Affordable housing projects are underway. Trip to Green has funding for the design phase and is moving forward. All of the city of Placerville is fire safe again. This means you can submit these certificates to your insurance and everyone can ask for a discount from their insurance company. We have a very active fire safe council seeking partnerships, participating in big picture planning, and seeking grants to help citizens. The city is participating by making their properties fire safe as well. Placerville opened a new park amenity, pickleball courts this year, and lights to the tennis courts. While this benefits everyone, this has really affected our senior population. If you go out there any morning, you'll see all of our seniors out there, and it's really exciting. Also, quietly doing their work as they always do, Goldbug Park has new trails for hiking. If you haven't been out to Goldbug lately, you need to get out there. There's always good stuff going on. We have challenges ahead, managing our complex homeless situation and developing creative solutions. We've had approximately 2 years of decreasing revenues and frozen staff positions to compensate, which affects the level of service we can provide. Improving needed revenue streams will be a key challenge for us moving forward. While we make great strides on our deteriorating roadways, some of our parks, trails, facilities, and historical assets are aging. As every council before us, we'll need to seek cooperative solutions and make hard choices. I'm optimistic and excited about upcoming years. Working together and thinking outside the box, we will continue to find ways to improve Placerville. Thank you for your continued support. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Do I need to take public comment on that? My attorney sometimes gets on me. Okay, we'll take public comment on 3.1. Okay, seeing none.
Nope, nope.
Ah.
Not so fast, big fella. Is it?
Now can you hear me?
Yes, much better.
Okay. Sue Rodman, member of the Measure H, Measure L committee. And while we are working diligently to try to get our pipes and roads in good shape, they are not all done. It would be great if they were, but they are not. We still have work to do there. But I do thank you for all of the effort that you have put in to be a really good mayor. I think you have epitomized what I think a good mayor should be. You have listened to people, you have been available, and you have brought forward issues that needed to be worked on. So thank you.
Thank you, Sue. I appreciate that.
I'll be brief. Ruth Michelson. I also want to thank you for your year of service. I think you were exemplary as a mayor, and the community so appreciates you.
Thank you, Ruth. I appreciate your kind words. Okay, seeing no one else, we will bring it back and move to 3.2, recognition for outgoing City Council member Michael Saragosa. Mr. Morse.
So unfortunately, Councilmember Saragosa was unable to be here tonight, but we do want to thank him and recognize him. Regina has down there has a plaque we will present to him when we see him, get a chance. We want to thank him for his service and wish him the best in the future. So thank you.
Okay. I will open this for public comment. I know that Supervisor Thomas has something prepared.
Thank you so much, Placerville City Council, Mayor No. That was a fabulous State of the City address, and we are proud to call Placerville home. On behalf of the El Dorado County Board of Supervisors, it is my pleasure to present this certificate of appreciation to Michael Nash Saragosa. And I'd like to read this tonight. I think it's important for our community to recognize the depths of service that Councilmember Saragosa has given to our city. And I will present this to him at a later time. But it is my privilege to read it tonight. So this certificate of appreciation is awarded to Michael Nash Saragosa for his dedicated and faithful service that has made notable and significant contributions to the everyday lives of the residents of Placerville. A legacy of service began when Mr. Saragosa was appointed to the City of Placerville's Historical Advisory Committee and then the Placerville Planning Commission. Known for his deep insights, broad experience, and thoughtful perspectives, he was then appointed to the Placerville City Council in 2018 to serve a partial term and then ran in the 2020 election to secure another four-year term. And in 2005, Mr. Saragosa and his wife Brenda first came to Placerville when they drove through town and fell in love with Placerville's charm and history. They purchased a historic home 2 weeks later, and for the past 20 years have furnished their beautiful home by supporting local antique dealers and artists. And a new level of professionalism came when with Mr. Saragosa, as he began serving on the Placerville City Council. His connections and distinguished career in government relations was just what was needed on the council. He worked in the California State Legislature by serving as an aide for several legislators and was then appointed to many high-level positions in the Schwarzenegger administration, including the Undersecretary at State and Consumer Services, the Executive Director of the Employment Training Panel, the Deputy Cabinet Secretary, and the Chief Deputy Appointments Secretary. Mr. Saragosa and his wife Brenda now own a boutique public affairs firm. And while serving on the Placerville City Council, Mr. Saragosa has leveraged his deep knowledge and commitment to public service through his dedication on many significant regional boards and commissions, including the El Dorado County Transportation Commission, Pioneer Energy Board, and El Dorado Opportunity Knox. Notably, Mr. Saragosa gained the respect and support of the six-county Sacramento region and is currently serving as chair of the Sacramento Area Council of Governments, which is a distinguished honor. And as council member, Saragosa has been instrumental in many local initiatives that will leave a lasting legacy on the city of Placerville, including serving on the Measure L committee, which secured over $40 million over 20 years to pave and maintain Placerville's roads and pipes, advocating for Trip to Green to ease congestion during peak travel periods, investing in the repair of Placerville's road network, and securing a vibrant local economy by creating more affordable housing that blends with our community so people can afford to live and work in Placerville. Councilmember Saragosa's departure from the Placerville City Council will be a monumental loss in significant ways, and it is with deep gratitude that I acknowledge and recognize his meaningful contributions to the residents of the city of Placerville, knowing that his service is leaving a lasting legacy that will be felt for generations to come. Given with deep appreciation this 10th day of December 2024. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wendy. Are there any other public comments?
Oh, wait, there's someone else.
Wow, it's hard to beat that speech. Great job, Wendy. That was very heartfelt. I don't feel the same way about Saragosa. I think he was pretty awful. And 4 years ago, you guys can roll your eyes if you want to, but 4 years ago, you guys sat in here and ate cake and kudos yourself while the doors were locked. And people out there, some people here in the crowd, sat outside and cried racism and all these things because of a freaking toy drive. And as mad as I could get, and as awful as it was, and it was awful, because there's no way to defend yourself against being called a racist. And it's probably one of the worst things that somebody could call you. And to have people outside chanting it, and have people that knew me, people that I sat in your house and prayed with you, that nobody here stuck up for me and said, I know Mandy. So I could go on, and I didn't want to get into the weeds about it, but Michael Saragosa's law shows that you can't buy your way into being authentic. And it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, real recognizes real. And maybe if he would have sent out one more $10,000 flyer, he would have won. But it just shows that he wasn't really authentic. And the fact that he's not here shows really what kind of person he was. Yeah, you can look at me too, because you spread lies and gossips about me too, Clarici, and I got the receipts. I can send them to you. So with that said, I hope that we can move on. It seems like we now have a pretty even city council. You know, people from both sides. Jackie, I look at you as somebody who's kind of in the middle, and I think you're fair. I think you've been very fair, Nicole. Even Clarici, I think you make sense a lot of times. And David, you as well. So I hope that we can move on. And I want you to know that as angry and worked up as I get, I forgive you. I forgive you because what you guys put me through made me a better person, inside and out. And some of you won't even recognize me from 4 years ago because I am a different person. So I hope we can put this thing to rest and move on and focus on making our community better and treating each other with respect.
Thank you, Mandy.
Mark Smith. Well, the election results were for me bittersweet. It's like what one of my favorite philosophers said, you can't always get what you want. But I would particularly respond to what was just described for a number of speakers about Michael Saragosa. because it's unfortunate when you got 3 people running and only 2 slots can get it. But Michael Saragosa was an exceptional member of the city council in a great many ways. For one thing, when it comes to the phrase historic preservation, this is a guy who really lived it. As Supervisor Thomas pointed out about buying a house, at that same time I was restoring a 100-year-old house. And I met him because I was looking for an ad for a gas insert that I bought from him. So I know about his love for the city and for its architecture. It's a very odd compliment to give to somebody, but given my experience as a trial lawyer, I intuitively just think of people, could I impeach that witness? I'm sorry, but it's a strange, bizarre trait. And I always told him, Mike, I couldn't do it. The guy is a straight shooter and sincere. So he's somebody I will miss, and I think he's somebody that we need in local government, precisely because when you use the phrase elected representative, his emphasis was on that second word, representative. He'd meet with anybody from Placerville and talk about their differences and in a straightforward way tell you exactly what he felt. So those are values that I think we should cherish and hope that others will emulate, as I trust all of you will. That's what I would conclude as an example of so being voted off the island, hey, you only got 3 slots and only 2 can make it when there's only 2 slots. But thank you.
Thank you, Kirk.
I'm not going to lie, there's a few things I don't miss about being on city council. I spent quite a bit of time with Michael. He was one of my go-to guys on city council when we worked there together. And he always had a balanced perspective. He almost effortlessly took in all sides of the issue and really thought them through. When he was mayor, it was a difficult time. He dealt with some very challenging situations, and he was a community first guy. He was a personal rights guy. He sought to find ways to bring our Constitution into this council, and we had conversations about those things. I really respected his knowledge and his depth of information that he brought. It is something that is going to be missed on the city council as far as I'm concerned. Not that you all don't bring your own special, unique experiences, and I've been there. I know how difficult it is sometimes, and I truly appreciate what he did bring. It was a wealth of knowledge, a depth of knowledge that he could pull at any time to really make the city a better place, and that was his goal. So I miss him not being on there. I appreciate the level of integrity he brought to the position. So thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Yeah, Ruth Michelson. Well, how lucky we are to live in this country. With the First Amendment, everyone can have their say. It's a fortunate thing to have that freedom. And I just want to say that being a public servant, as you all are, what a tough position to give so much of yourselves. And Michael Saragosa, while I did not agree with everything, every decision he made, I respected the man of the hard work and dedication, and that year of him being mayor, and such a difficult year. And I think we should all have gratitude for that hard work and understand we're not going to all agree on every issue. And I won't get into that other political stuff in any depth, but I will say, as a Jewish woman, when a group on their website says they are anti-Semitic and anti-Muslim, I'm going to believe the website. So, yeah, sometimes people are upset when they're called out, but, you know, in this country, we try to protect minority groups, and I appreciate that. So anyway, Michael, thank you. I'm sorry you're not here. I appreciate all your efforts, all your time, all your blood, sweat, and tears. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Okay, seeing no one else, we'll bring this back to the council. Does the council have comments? Okay, I do. I'm truly going to miss Michael. He just brought so much depth to every conversation we had. But of the things that haven't been mentioned is probably all the little things that Michael did behind the scenes. You know, the roof that we have up on the bell tower right now, that's because of Michael. You know, he looked to have partnerships to see who could help. We don't have a lot of money. He always tried to find people who could help us. He found someone at a show and said they were a roofer, and he said, hey, you know, we need this roof. We don't have any money. And they came and they helped us out. I think they did that for just cost. And he was always doing things like that, looking for grants, looking for any way he could to help us along with the tight budget that we always have. And I truly will miss Michael. Okay, we will move on to 3.3, acknowledge and file the official final election report and adopt a resolution accepting the El Dorado County Register of Voters canvass of ballots for the November 5th, 2024 election. Ms. McConnell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, just like the title says, this is a request for the City Council to acknowledge and file the official final election report, which was released about a week ago by the Elections Department, and to also adopt a resolution accepting the canvass of ballots, which lists Jackie No and Ryan Carter as the two candidates that were elected to the 2 seats on the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Regina. Ryan Carter, I want to say thank you and welcome aboard. We will move to 3.4. Oh, public comment. I always forget. Public comment, please. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to 3.4. Get on to the business. Oath. Oh, we have to make a.
I will move to accept. I will move the resolution to accept.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Now I can move to 3.4? All right, we're good. Okay, oath of allegiance for elected council members as required by Article 20, Section 3, California Constitution and Chapter 8, Division 4, Title 1 of the California Government Code. Ms. McConnell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I could have Mr. Carter join us up here on this on the dais stage thing, and Jackie, you too, please. Thank you.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah, you're right here. All right, thank you. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jackie No,
Do solemnly affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Thank you. Congratulations.
You get to sit in a big chair now.
I don't need to take public comment.
No, the oath of.
Okay, all right. Okay, at this time, the city will take a brief recess to allow new council members to be seated. Okay, we're seated.
I left all my stuff over there. Yeah.
Okay.
That just shows how fast it happens. One day you're there, and one day you're not. And then you're not.
Okay, 3.5, motion for the city council to adjourn the meeting, Zing Dai, and appoint city manager as temporary chairperson. Mr. Morris.
Thank you. No, I don't need the gavel. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. At this time, will call the meeting back to order and request nominations from the council for appointment of mayor.
I nominate John Clarici for mayor.
I'll second.
Thank you. We don't actually need a second on this, I found out in reviewing the rules, but anyway, we have a nomination. Are there any other nominations from the council for mayor? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote, please.
Do we,
No, public comment.
Oh, public comment. Thank you. I'm sorry. Before we take the vote, we'll have public comment on this item. Anyone?
Thank you. So I've had some thoughts about the mayor of this city. And I first want to say, I know I come before you quite a bit, and sometimes you hear my concerns, but I bring up my concerns because I really care about the city a lot. I really do. I love Placerville. I love having lived here for 40 years in this county, and I love having a business here for 9 years. And so I just wanted to make a few short comments about what I think makes a good mayor as you embark upon this. I think a good mayor is someone who is really a good listener and listens to all, patient, considers what's being said, and is a unifier and finds ways of bringing people together. We've seen that before in past mayors, and it's been much appreciated because we have a very diverse community, and we've had some tough issues to face. And some of our mayors have really been able to find common ground among people, and that helps make a strong community when that common ground is found. I think a good mayor is forward-looking, is clear about helping define what the values are of this community. I think we've kind of lost touch a little bit about that, what the values are, and I'd like to see the future mayor maybe lead some efforts in that direction. The other thing I was thinking about is how there's only 2 cities, as we know, in this county, Placerville and South Lake Tahoe. And I'd really like to see maybe some sister city type of unification between this city and South Lake Tahoe, and maybe check out some of the things that they do there. They have figured out how to get a lot of money, a lot of grant money. They leapfrog over the county, and they have connections directly with the state. And I know that we need money here, and so there might be some learning that could be achieved by connecting with South Lake Tahoe. And I'd like to see someone who's a true appreciator of history. That's really the driving factor for getting people to come to our town and to our county, whether it be Goldbug Mine, whether it be downtown Placerville. I really feel that's the heart of what makes this city what it is. And this being the county seat, I think it's really important to emphasize that history. And I'd like to see a little more appreciation of the arts by the upcoming mayor, and I'm just about done, so I think that's about it, and I look forward to whomever, most likely Mr. Clarici, being our mayor. Thank you.
First of all, Sue Rodman, and I agree wholeheartedly. And Mayor Clarici, I look forward to you being the kind of mayor that will listen to everyone and will face all the facts. No matter that there are going to be some good facts and some bad facts, and we need to face them all with an open mind and figure out how we will deal with them in this city and how to work together to resolve those issues that come up. So I support you, and I'm glad you're going to be here.
Good evening, Marion Washburn, resident of Placerville, longtime resident. I'm not sure I've chosen the right moment to do this, but I'll hope so. Since you're in the mode of transition, I would like to recognize our outgoing mayor for excellence. I'm compelled to say, I've been watching mayors and council members for a long time, probably 40 years as a participant in local government. So I know a good one when I see one. And Mayor No, I think, has delivered on all the aspects that I find important. And I think Ruth just summarized it so well, so I won't try to repeat that. But Mayor No, your capacity for listening and your patience, your even-handedness, as well as your dog. Not have to include Max in this, because I'm sure he's been your helper all along. But I think you set a very high standard for leadership in our city, and I know you've had an eye on the present, what works well for, and can work the best for the residents that are in place right now, as well as have an eye on the future, so that groundwork will be laid for good outcomes in the upcoming years. So I'm going to make a little presentation, if that's allowed.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Any other public comments at this time? Seeing none, any other comments from the council?
Well, I thought we should probably ask the person that we nominated if he's willing and able to accept that position.
Now you ask. Yes, I am. I would be my honor.
All right, seeing nothing further, thank you. And Regina, will you call a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember Gottberg?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Councilmember No?
Aye.
Mayor excuse me, Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I will. I will. I'll do my darndest.
Do you want to swap? You need this chair? I'm teasing.
All right. So we will now proceed to item 3.6, and I will call for nominations for vice mayor.
I will nominate Nicole Gottberg.
Nicole, do you accept that nomination?
Yes.
Okay. Are there other nominations? Okay. There are none. Would the public wish to comment on this item, the nomination for vice mayor?
Well, I really support this nomination. I remember Nicole being on the Planning Commission, and what an excellent job she did there for 2 years, and now 2 years on City Council. Very thoughtful, really does her homework, does a lot of research, well-spoken, and I think she'll be a good support to you, John Clarici, in setting agendas and the type of thing that vice mayors do. So congratulations on the nomination.
Seeing no more comments, I'll bring it back here for a vote. Do we just all in favor, or are we going to, no, we have to roll call this. Please have the roll call, please.
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember Gottberg?
Aye.
Councilmember No?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Mayor Clarici?
Aye.
Thank you.
Congratulations. All right. We'll figure out the seating on, we'll figure out the deck chairs on the Titanic later. Closed session report.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Clarici. The council did meet in closed session. There was no public comment, and the council provided direction on each of the items.
Okay, thank you very much. Does any, adoption of the agenda, are there any items that council member might want to take off the agenda or whatnot? Anything?
I'll move the adoption of the agenda.
Do you want to adopt the agenda? It's been a while since I sat here.
I move to adopt the agenda.
Okay. We need public comment on the agenda. If you're commenting on a specific item, just hold on. Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
So motion and a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second on the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much. All right, number 6, announcements, presentations to the public. Wait, we adopted the agenda. We already did that.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
You know, gosh, it's going to be like this all the time. Okay, number 6, we did it.
Did we do it?
Yes, we did. You need to pay attention. It's fun. Okay, number 6, announcements, presentations to the public. Brief comments by the city council. We'll start to my left. Councilmember Yarbrough.
Yeah, I just wanted to say you guys did a great job in the parade. Waved at you guys as you were going by. I didn't do it this year. I had other obligations with other people, but our parade once again was fantastic. Kudos to everybody that was in the parade and operated the parade and volunteered for it. Once again, I grew up with parades like this as a child, and honestly, you guys have one heck of a parade. So, yeah, our city does really, really well with this. So, very proud to watch it and very proud to have it in our city.
Cool. And to all, a good night. Wow.
Upgraded.
I was going to say. Dude, do you even want to say anything now?
I will also recognize that my grandson was over the moon with the Christmas parade. It was amazing. City staff did an amazing job. The next morning, you couldn't even tell anything had happened. Wonderful, wonderful job on the Christmas parade. Also, I just wanted to do a quick shout out. Saturday was Pearl Harbor Day. Wanted to recognize, make sure we honored the 2,403 service members and civilians who lost their lives during that attack. There's only 19 of them that are still with us, and so it's important to recognize that entire generation, but it was a day that changed our country forever, so recognition to Pearl Harbor Day.
Thank you.
I attended the Christmas tree lighting and participated in the parade.
As did I. And it was the most fun I've ever had in a parade.
Yes, it was, yes, I would agree. And I will tell a cute, and we have a bit of an agenda here, but I will tell a funny story. Because so we had the quad, and the quad had lights and sirens and a microphone, which was a really bad combination, but it was great. So we get done with the parade. We had the lights on during the parade. So we get done with the parade, and we go out through the parking lot, like behind the Carey House, and then we went out this little alley there to Pacific Street. So we start heading up Pacific Street, and all of a sudden we notice all the cars are getting out of the way. And that's because we still had the lights on the top of the quad. And it was a real struggle to turn them off. I mean, it was like, this is really cool. So it was just a cute little thing. But the parade's great. The parade, I've been going to Christmas parades. My kids had been in Christmas parades. My grandchildren have been in Christmas parades on this street. It was just fantastic. It's one of the best things we do here in town, and it's a lot of fun. And this year's attendance, I think, was very good. We were noticing, you always get it all the way from the grocery outlet all the way down, but it got real thick once you got onto Main Street and then made the turn there at Cedar Ravine. So, and downtown was just fantastic. So all of you should take a bow being part of this wonderful community. So anyway, that was that. Now we have some employee service anniversary announcements. Mr. Norris.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm going to ask now Mayor Clarici to help me do this, if you would. And I'm going to try to stand over here. Hopefully still use the microphone. Still one of these. So several years ago, after I started here, we established this program to recognize employees for their service to the community, and we recognized 10, 15, 20, and this year I believe we have 125 that we are recognizing. And we recognize them and give them a gift certificate for, depending on how many years, to spend some money in our wonderful city that we have here. So I will announce these and have them come up. Also, department heads, if it's one of your employees, if you would come up here and join us when we announce those too, appreciate it. The first one is Nick Stone, which is also one of our department heads. Nick has been here 10 years now. Appreciate him, and he does a great job running the department now, and didn't start out that way.
There you go. Are we gonna? Somebody can take some pictures. Somebody take it. Everybody has a camera. Somebody take it. Okay. Well, you can hold it up.
I don't want to lose my
Certificate.
There you
Next, and I don't see him here, is Matt Case from our Public Works Department. Is Matt's not here, is he, Nick? Okay, so he's not here, so we will make.
For Matt?
Matt is also 10 years,
10 years,
and
Matt.
we'll make sure that he gets his certificate.
Yes. If you'd like a picture with me, just let me know. just in case.
This one I know also is not here. Sharon Campbell works as our lab technician out at our wastewater treatment plant. Sharon has been here 15 years working at our wastewater treatment plant.
Nice.
Congratulations to Sharon.
Yeah, I'll give that to you.
Take that one. Next, and this is a little bit different than something we haven't always done in the past, is recognize some of our long-term part-time employees, and we have a few of those at Goldbug Park, and we'd like to recognize them. Some of these, we apologize, we did not do this always in the past, and we are kind of double dipping on them this year, and they'll get a little bit better reward because they're going to get only one certificate, but two awards, gift certificate amounts. So first is Richard Dvorchak from Goldbug Park. Richard?
Thanks, Cleve.
Thanks, Richard. Appreciate it. And again, Richard has been working at Goldbug Park for 15 years out there, so really appreciate him.
All right, very good. Thank you much. Thank you very much.
Next, also 15 years, and I had to actually go to Regina and say, what's his first name? I just know him as Carter. So Richard Carter as our blacksmith, and has been working also 15 years out at Goldbug Park. Richard, yeah.
I just got off work a while ago.
It's okay.
You're good. Just mentioning quickly, if those of you may notice, we added some decorative, I call them fences on one of in front of City Hall. And those were made by our Goldbug blacksmith employees, and Richard headed that up for us, so did a great job.
Oh, you get that too? Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right, who's this?
Next from Goldbug Park is Paula Carter.
Paula Carter.
Also 15 years.
You get good at this. You want to do both, right? There you go for that.
That's a great shot.
All right. Dennis, I'll invite you up for this one. I should have had you up there for them too, sorry, but I'll get you for this one. Monique Plubel has been here 20 years.
We apologize. We said 10 years on here. This is 20. Your gift says one, this says 20. Your thing says 10, but that's okay. Oh, gee, we got everything. There we go. I should be in the middle. There we go. That's much. All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
And I need to back up, I made an error. Paula has actually been here 15 years, but she's also been here 20 years. So her certificate was for 20 years, not 15. I apologize. Want to make sure I noticed. The certificate says 20, even if I didn't. So, and last but not least is also not here, but is commander in our police department, John Muser, receives a 25-year award, and we will make sure we get that to John. So. Again, I want to recognize all these employees and thank them. They've done a great job, and you can see from the number of years they've been here what it means to us and the experience and how it helps us keep the city going. So, thank you.
I'd like to take an opportunity to add to that. As I've always said, as mentioned before for other people's, public service is not easy. There's things that are probably more lucrative. There's things that are probably more flexible. There's far fewer things, though, that are probably as satisfying as that working in the public sphere. These folks do tremendous work, frequently without too much thanks. They make the city run. When you wake up in the morning, to the time you go to bed at night, and even while you're asleep, there are people on your shoulder working for the city of Placerville, watching out for you and everybody around you. And it is a remarkable thing, and we should never lose sight of that. I have worked on the public and private side, and I value my work on the public side far more than any of the work I ever did on the private side. So kudos to everybody, and especially those people out there at Goldbug Park. That is quite an operation, what they have spun out there over the decades. I remember when I first met my lovely bride, who's sitting right back there. Hi, honey. We went out to Goldbug, and there wasn't a lot. In fact, you could just kind of wander around back in those days. There wasn't, this was like in the 70s. Might have even been trespassing. And you could just kind of wander around out there. To what it is today is just a phenomenal thing. So just remember those good, hard-working public servants. Anytime you come into this city, or if you happen to live here, the privilege of living in Placerville, just remember them and the hard work they do. So we certainly never forget. Do we have to take public comment on service? Or would anybody like to say nice things about the city, please? Thank you.
I have a nice thing. Marion Washburn, resident of Placerville again. Since Mayor Clarici brought up the Goldbug Park volunteers, I feel compelled to note, it was a number of years ago that I started on the city council, and there was a committee in place working hard, and the leaders of that committee were Pat Cook and Loie Bonser. And those two people built that I'm searching for the right word, but marvelous asset for the city. I would have never dreamed that people could just step forward and accomplish something of that magnitude. They were tireless, absolutely tireless. Those ladies are gone now, but I wish there was a way to recognize them some way in a permanent fashion at Goldbug Park, because they had the vision and they worked just incredibly tirelessly. They put me to shame for certain, but we owe them all a debt of gratitude. Every teacher who has brought their children in their classroom to visit that mine and educated them on Gold Rush history, I think also owes those folks a big thank you, but also recognize the wonderful people who have taken up that mantle and persevered and kept that place growing and the wonderful attraction that it is now. So I feel better having said that. Thank you, John, for this opportunity.
Thank you for your very kind comments. Anybody else? Oh, okay. Here we go.
Sue Rodman, resident of Placerville, and I have really appreciated the Public Works Department. There was a major water line break above my house, and water was pouring down, and they came and they got it shut off and they got it fixed, and we eventually got a new water line. And but every time I have called for Public Works and found something that needed to be fixed or needed to have some attention, they're right on it. They do a great job. And I think our engineering department does an excellent job in planning and figuring out how to make our dollars stretch to do our infrastructure in this city. So I think I agree with Mayor Clarucci that we do have an amazing staff, and they do great work for us. And they should be appreciated. And we need to give them a little more appreciation sometimes.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening, council members. Congratulations, Mr. Mayor, Ms. Vice Mayor, on your future term. I think it's wonderful to have you up here. Appreciate your service. I have to channel my inner Pat Cook. Marion Washburn did a very nice job remembering two very key folks. Pat Cook was just tireless at city council meetings, at county meetings, and one of my favorite things on as a council member was to have the recognition for the employees. And I'm really glad to see that Cleve is doing the volunteers also, because these Gold Bug volunteers that have spent even more time this evening coming out here are responsible for thousands of visitors going through that park every year, every month. And there's a lot of new faces on the council. And you really need to spend the time and make sure you get acquainted with the folks that, as volunteers, as part-time employees, take care of our gym. What other city has an underground mine that they can take the public into? The reason you have that mine open to the public is because of the volunteers that are sitting in the audience this evening. As has been said also by another every night Sue Rodman City Council meeting attendee, is the work that the staff does. And again, new council members, I can assure you that Nick Stone has taken a public works department that was dysfunctional and turned it into something that you can be very, very proud of. They respond to emergencies 24 hours a day. They are there when it snows. They are there when the leaves need to be picked up and everything in between. And it's his leadership and his willingness to stay as a part of this community that makes our city services function. It's all invisible until it doesn't work. And Mr. Stone and his crew is one of the keystones to making sure that things do work when we get up in the morning and want to flush the toilet or get a nice glass of water. Same thing with our city engineer. Very proud that she can be soon doing the ribbon cutting on Broadway. 10-year project. It took an entire community and several councils to get that done. Awesome. And then lastly, Commander Muser, who's not here this evening, 25 years with the City of Placerville Police Department. You new council members, I hope you've already taken the time to get to know Chief Wren, Commander Maciel, who's filling in here this evening. Having your own police department is a huge responsibility. It's a very large expense, and it also sets the tone for the safety throughout this entire community. And to have officers like John Muser and Dan here, who are multi-year members of this force, a testament to Chief Wren's leadership and also their love for our community. So again, congratulations to our new council member, Mr. Mayor. And we look forward to seeing you doing your usual. And I know you will fill those shoes, stepping in behind Jackie, who did an awesome job. Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, seeing no other comments, we'll bring it back. well, comments by the city council about this?
I just wanted to mention there is a plaque out at Goldbug honoring those people. It was 3 or 4 years ago, we put that out. I was out there for that dedication, so I wanted to make sure you knew that was there. And also just to thank all of our employees. You know, as I mentioned, we have dedication second to none, and it's because of you guys. The public can come in year after year, see the same face, deal with the same people, know that they're getting that excellent level of service, so thank you.
Right. Well, thank you very much. We will now get to the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion by roll call vote unless any member of the council wishes to remove an item for discussion. The reading of the full text of all resolutions will be waived unless a council member requests otherwise. So, does anybody want to pull an item from the consent calendar?
I apologize, but I'm going to pull 7.6.
Do not apologize for pulling 7.6. Okay. Any other items pulled?
Given the public comment received, I'd like to pull 7.7.
Which one is that? Okay. Yes, we were pulling 7.6 and 7.7. Any other ones? Okay. I would like to open this up. The consent calendar is now open for public comment. Understand that items 7.6 and 7.7 have been pulled, and we will be discussing them separately. So if you have discussions about the items not pulled, the time is yours. I see no one coming up for public comment. So, you need a motion and a second?
All motion to move consent calendar with 7.6 and 7.7 pulled.
Yes.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I need to abstain from 7.1. I was not on the council when those minutes were created.
Okay.
Excuse me, Councilmember Carter, I forgot to get back to you. You can vote on that if you feel
Oh,
the
okay.
minutes are in line with what was done that day. I apologize for not getting back to you on that.
No problem. Thank you, Cleve.
That's okay. All right. So we have a motion and a second on the consent calendar, excluding items 7.6 and 7.7. Roll call.
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember No?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gottberg?
Aye.
Mayor Clarici?
Aye.
Thank you.
We'll now move to the public comment section. There's a lengthy thing here that we typically sometimes read. I'm going to do something a little simpler. You have 3 minutes to comment. Each one of you has 3 minutes to comment. And I just want you to follow the golden rule. Don't say anything about anything or anybody that you wouldn't want to have said about you. And as long as you follow that golden rule, we'll have a grand old time here. So, does anybody want to stand up for public comment? And these are items not on the agenda. I'm sorry. I didn't add that part. Public comment is for items that are not on the agenda. Okay, sorry.
My name's Greg Carter. Excuse me. I just want to reiterate, or just mention how important your jobs are, that as elected officials, you can vote for, you can be rabid about the president, you can be rabid about the governor, and all of the elections that take millions and millions of votes. Local elections, in my eyes, are the most important of all, because this is where we live. And so I commend you folks for being willing to step up. And I'd also like to talk about the newest member. I've known him longer than anyone, because I was there when he was born. Excuse me, I'm getting a little emotional here.
This is bad. Okay.
I just want you to know that Ryan is a man of honor. He's a man of integrity. He's a man of courage, and he's a man of God. And I know that he will be an amazing asset to the new council, and I wish you all the best.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Carter. Does any other comments on items not on the agenda? All right, we'll bring it back here then. Do we have any written communications?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Okay. The items pulled from the consent calendar, let's go to 7.6, which I now have to go back. And 7.6, consider adoption of an ordinance to amend the text of the City of Placerville City Ordinance, adding Chapter 30, Tobacco Retailers, to Title 5, Business Regulations, to regulate retail of tobacco products and to establish a tobacco retail licensing program, and find the action is not a project within the meaning of Public Resources Code Section 21065 and CEQA Guidelines Section 15378, and not subject to environmental review. Mr. Rivas.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I'm going to start with just a brief history of where we've been on this tobacco ordinance. We've been working on it now in coordination with the county for probably a little over 5 years. So going back to May 28th of 2019, the City Council ratified an MOU with the California Department of Justice, and this was for the 2019-2021 Department of Justice Proposition 56 Tobacco Grant, and the city received $395,000 from that grant, and this grant then funded education of retailers, schools, parents, youth on the types of tobacco products and the current laws regarding tobacco prevention, sales, and use, and this also included electronic smoking devices. The County Public Health Division assisted the city staff with developing both a draft tobacco retail ordinance, which is before you, and also a draft tobacco smoking ordinance, which we haven't brought to the council. On November the 2nd of 2022, the County Public Health Department held a town hall meeting with the public at the Herbert Green Middle School to educate the public regarding tobacco products, and the city was also invited and noticed to participate in that event. Staff was there in attendance at that event. On February 13th of 2024, staff from the El Dorado County Public Health gave a presentation to the City Council on the current tobacco prevention efforts in El Dorado County and statewide, and on local tobacco retail license requirements and local enforcement, including the prevention of retail sales of tobacco products to youth, the number of tobacco retailers, distances to schools, and the waste management regulations such as prohibiting single-use electronic smoking devices. Following that council discussion, the City Council then directed staff to return with an urgency ordinance to prohibit the establishment of any new tobacco retail shops and to allow for the completion of a draft tobacco retail ordinance. The main purpose behind that is because the county was also considering its tobacco ordinance, and the city was concerned that if it passes and the city didn't have such, that it would force additional tobacco retailers within the city. On March 12th, the council did adopt an urgency ordinance that created a 45-day temporary moratorium on the establishment of new tobacco retailers within the city limits. The urgency ordinance was to expire on April the 26th unless it was extended by council. On April 9th, the City Council adopted the following actions as recommended by staff. These were actions to alleviate the effects of any continued tobacco product sales and operations. As required, the following actions were adopted 10 days prior to the expiration of the urgency ordinance. On April the 23rd, the council adopted an ordinance further extending the existing 45-day moratorium for an additional 10 months and 15 days that will allow sufficient time for staff to continue its collaboration with the county's public health divisions countywide, what's known as the Tobacco Use Prevention Program, or TUPP, on developing the tobacco retail ordinance. On May 13th of 2024, the Placerville Police, with the assistance of the California Department of Tax and Administration, the CDTFA, inspectors to conduct inspections of several tobacco shops located within the city. 4 smoke/vape shops were inspected, and all 4 shops were found to be selling not only products banned under Assembly Bill 793, but also selling unlawful cannabis products. On October the 22nd of 2024, the City Council adopted Resolution 9371. And this resolution contained findings of well-established negative health impacts of tobacco use. And then the council introduced and waived the first reading of the tobacco retails ordinance. On October the 22nd of 2024, the same date, the El Dorado County Board of Supervisors approved the first reading of its tobacco retail ordinance, which was almost identical to the ordinance that was before you at that time. The board made one change, and that was doubling the fines. On November the 12th of 2024, the City Council considered the second reading and adoption of the tobacco retails ordinance. In response to public opposition to the ordinance's provision that set minimum prices for cigarettes, little cigars, and cigars, the City Council reintroduced the ordinance, waived the first reading, and modified the ordinance, which deleted sections 5-30-6E, and this is the entirety of that section that set any price limitations. The action before the council tonight is then to adopt the proposed ordinance as modified with the deletion of section 530-6E. The change is reflected by strikeout. This ordinance, if adopted, shall become effective in 30 days. Staff has one additional comment we'd like to make. It's just a minor correction, and that would be on page... I'm not sure what page it is, but I know what section it is, so let's start with that. Staff recommends you amend section 5-30-7, D as in dog, 3-7. And basically, you're just changing the reference from county code to city code. So with that, staff is recommending that the City Council waive the second reading of an ordinance amending the text of the City of Placerville City Code, amending Chapter 30, tobacco retailers, to Title 5, which is business regulations, to regulate retail sale of tobacco products, and to establish a tobacco retail licensing program. 2, find that the action is not a project within the meaning of the Public Resources Code and CEQA guidelines, and is not subject to any further environmental review. 3, adopt said ordinance, and then 4, that the council would direct staff to return to the council with a resolution that would establish a tobacco retail licensing fee schedule. And with that, that concludes staff's report. Happy to answer questions you have at this time.
Thank you. One of the reasons why this item was pulled was because during a review of the item and agenda review today that I had with the then mayor, there were several questions that came up. Plus, we also received comments from a couple of business owners in town that had some interesting and pertinent questions just about some of the technicalities of it and all of that. So I'm going to hand this over to Jackie, Councilmember No, and have her go through some of her thoughts, and then we'll go around the horn to see anybody else, and she may cover quite a bit of it. Anyway.
Yeah, I want to apologize because this item keeps going on, and I hate when that happens, but I really feel like it's important that we get it right.
Yeah.
And that's why I did that. So had 2 businesses contact me in town, businesses that have been here for 20 or more years, liquor store businesses, and said, hey, we're planning on, selling or giving this to our children to run. If we do that, are we going to lose our tobacco license? And the way this is written, the answer is yes. And so, I wanted to bring that back to council to consider grandfathering to immediate family members for our community members who've been in this town for decades, doing good work, following all the rules, not the people who have been selling to children, selling illegal products. So that was one consideration I wanted to discuss, and through talking about that and talking to staff, and coming back to me and saying, what are your chief objectives and this and that, and also realizing this ordinance basically has a 4-strike rule. And I kind of find that unacceptable. I mean, if our goal is really to make sure that they're not selling to children and they're not selling products that aren't supposed to be sold in the state of California, I would like to reduce that 4 strikes maybe to 2 strikes. Maybe you get one, oops, I didn't realize, or for whatever reason, which I can't imagine what is, but at least there's that. But, you know, bring that 4 strikes down to 2 strikes and put this on, you know, if our purpose is really to keep it out of the children, then we shouldn't be tolerating the sale to children and the sale of products that are not allowed in the state of California. So those are the 2 things I wanted to bring up to council members.
Did anyone else have any other items that they wanted to chat about?
I wanted to ask a question. I know some of the comments that we got said that we are banning e-cigarettes. So I wanted some clarity on that. My understanding is we're not banning multi-use electronic cigarettes, but single-use disposable e-cigarettes. So I just wanted clarification that we are not fully banning all e-cigarettes if we were to pass this as.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that was one. I'm going to do this real quick. County folks, multiple use up, 1 use down, correct? Okay, that's it. So yes, we are not banning, so the person, yeah, I read that too. I read that too, the person that wrote that, we are not, you can get a, you know, use, right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the other thing is the non-FDA thing.
And then I'm gonna follow that up with, why are multiple use better than single use? If the county, can I ask the county to?
No, I think I can answer. It's trash. Yeah, it's
just
environmental. It's trash. They sing end up everywhere. Yeah, yeah. It's like cigarette butts are like that.
Electronic cigarette butt.
Yeah, except it doesn't like, you know, ever dissolve. It's plastic. Yeah, so that's it. It's just trash.
Okay, that's the only rationale behind it.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Any other items?
I did a little research after the public comment, and Assembly Bill 1690, the state has already banned single-use e-cigarettes, both for tobacco and for cannabis. So this ordinance isn't banning anything. The state has already done that for us. And being not a consumer of any of these things, I had to figure out what that meant. It just means it has a non-rechargeable battery. So whenever the liquid is in it is done, it goes in the trash and it is a disposal issue. And so we're not banning anything. It is already banned by the state.
Yes. Yes.
So I just wanted to add that context
Okay.
on that.
Yeah. Okay.
David, did you have other questions?
No, you guys are pretty much answering it.
No. Well, very good.
I think we've all been on the same page
Yeah.
with this after getting
Yeah.
our comments
Yeah.
by email. So.
Okay, so you've heard us. Now I'd like to open this up for public comment.
Mr. Mayor, just real quick for the record, I'd like to state that there were some
Oh, yes.
several emails received for this item. Copies have been printed and provided on the back table for the public.
Thank you. Now you can make some comments.
Thank you. Ruth Michelson. Thanks for clarifying that single use. Yeah, I was concerned about that letter that Victoria Moore wrote. 'Cause I don't know anything about these things. I don't use them, but thank you. Obviously, from a public health perspective, this is the right thing to be doing. So I'd fully support it. My only question is process, because when this came up before, there was question about the retailers and how involved they were ahead of time in the whole discussion about this so they could be prepared. And I think the response was, well, they'll find out essentially when it's done. I could have recalled it incorrectly, but I think it's best to have those who are impacted be part of the conversation. I love to be corrected on that, but that was my only thing I wanted to mention.
Is there any other public comment? Okay. I would like to ask the folks at the county to let us know what they did in terms of outreach, because that's a good question, and I'm not sure about the answer, to be honest with you.
Good evening, Kristen Becker, Program Manager, Public Health County. It is a great question, and We did send a letter out to retailers in October 2023, but to be honest, I believe it was just sent to the unincorporated retailers and not the city.
Right.
Proactively, nothing comes to mind that we proactively reached out to the retailers, but we have been working with the city collaboratively and hosting a town hall event in 2022 where the public, and we promoted it and we had a press release, and then we've done a lot of public presentations. We never wanted to work with the city under the radar of the retailers knowing we want to work collaboratively with the community. So that was never the intent.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so I don't know, my council members hasn't said anything about my thoughts on,
Oh, no, I think they're right on.
Okay.
No, I think the
Oh, okay.
general was, we accept your, we accept your observations. And so then the question is, what can we do?
Okay, so it
Yeah.
looks like what Jackie is talking, Councilmember No is talking about is the non-transferable license section under 5-30-11, non-licensed, non-transferable. Looks like we're probably gonna have to reword that or put some sort of clause in there for,
grandfathering.
grandfathering them in if they're passing it down to family members.
Immediate family members?
Immediate family members? I mean, how's that? I'm going to kind of reach out over here to our city attorney and see what, language-wise, I'm not quite sure if putting family members in there is discriminatory in a long run of some sort, or how do we word that so we can grandfather these businesses in that want to pass them down to
The biggest issue
the rest
is,
of the family?
The biggest issue is, can you identify something that is broad enough to be appropriate, but not so broad that everybody becomes everybody else's second cousin twice removed?
Right.
And then they just keep, and basically game the system. And we have discussed this with our attorney. I did ask her that question after our closed session because that's why I wanted to hang out. So go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
I just want the council also to look on page 3, and that's under the list of definitions. Down towards the bottom, there's a list of proprietor. So it's the proprietor that would be obtaining the license.
Right.
So a proprietor means a person with an ownership or a managerial interest in a business. An ownership interest shall be deemed to exist when a person has 10% or greater interest in the stock, assets, or income of a business other than the sole interest of the security for debt. A managerial interest shall be deemed to exist when a person can or does have or share ultimate control over the day-to-day operations of a business. So that's is basically what we're saying here, and what's also stated under 530-11, license non-transferable, is that basically a tobacco retailer's license may not be transferred from one person to another or from one location to another. A new tobacco retailer's license is required whenever a tobacco retailing location has changed in proprietors. So I want to point out that we do have a grandfathering section in here, so any of the number of existing retailers within the city that sell tobacco products, they are grandfathered in. They're not going to slowly expire or disappear because we've exceeded the maximum number of retailers that we're allowed to have in the city. And so those provisions are written there starting at the top of page 8, and those are all the sections that would be met, and a business can continue to sell tobacco products even after they apply for a new license, and we have an excess of the 4, that's the maximum amount based on our population. So if we have 15 or 20 retailers out there, as long as they can comply with that. So the question is, and again, that's a legal question, I would defer to our city attorney, if we can write a provision in there that would allow not meeting the definition of a proprietor, can a license be automatically transferred to somebody based on a family connection?
And now, our attorney.
So Yes, we can limit it, but then we'll have to define the term family, immediate family, and we will have to review the ordinance in its entirety to make sure that there's not any unintended consequences of making that change. For example, the way that the definition of proprietor stands now, it means anyone with 10% interest. So if we took the council's direction to mean that a local tobacco license could be maintained as long as it's sold or transferred to an immediate family member, that would apply to anyone that has 10% or more of the interest in the business.
Okay, the other thing that we talked about was perhaps making this effective in 90 days so that those businesses could resolve those conflicts among their families to get their titles and paperworks and everything in order.
So an ordinance typically is effective within 30 days after second reading and adoption. The council could push back the effective date or approve it, for example, tonight as it is, but make the change that the effective date is not 30 days, it's 90 days or whatever date that you wish.
I'm just letting everyone know the options because we were talking about that. And then, I have this question too, because this, one of the businesses is the Creekview Mini Mart, and they rebuilt the building that burnt down next to them, and they're planning on moving into that building. So per this definition, they would not be able to move their business next door. Is that correct?
They would be required to get a new license unless they're within the limits of the code. Like say if they got their stuff in and get a license, but it's not, the way I read the code is even though the ordinance takes effect in 30 days, I think that's going to impact any new licenses.
Yeah.
But the enforcement doesn't take place for, I think that's 90 days. I'm trying to find the section where that's written in here.
And so the question to you is, do we try to make them get all that paperwork worked out in 60 or 90 days, or do we work on that grandfather clause, which we need to define what a relative is?
We also would actually, under that second option, need to amend section 5-30-7C. That's the one that grandfathers in the existing lawfully operated tobacco retailers. So rather than saying a tobacco retailer operating lawfully on the date this ordinance is adopted, we should say the date that the ordinance is effective, and that will lock in the types of businesses that you're referring to.
Okay, so the way I'm understanding this is if you have 10% ownership in the business, then the license is transferable to you, the way the ordinance currently reads. So there's no reason saying that whether we make it a grandfather clause or not, they can give 10% ownership to anybody at that point and transfer the license.
Yeah.
But they need to do it now.
Staff wants to say something.
Yeah, Mayor, that's a true statement. I would also further state that any owners would be listed on the license. So if there's a 10%, if there's a person that has a 10% stake in that retail business that sells tobacco products, they would be listed.
Okay, so does that mean it has to be current owners? What if somebody comes along 2 years after they get a license and they decide to buy into the company and they pay 10% and now they are a 10% owner of share of company?
Yeah, no,
Is that
I'm
license now
just trying to do
transferable?
what we have right here, right now.
Well, no, this
Yeah.
is kind of what I'm trying to say is, I mean, if it's already stating in there that all you need is a 10% ownership, see where I'm kind of getting in the weeds here?
No, it's important to get into
Yeah.
the weeds, because, I mean, is it basically ineffective the way it is worded right now?
Well, it's not ineffective, but it's broader than what.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I guess maybe I'd like to just share my thoughts, and they're not technical thoughts. when I first started thinking about this, it was like I drove around town one day and it was just like, wow, there's an awful lot of smoke shops all of a sudden. And maybe it's an easy entry, barriers to entry are low, you can make money. I'm not a smoker. I've watched, family, not immediate family, but family members have issues with smoking that killed them essentially. So, it's not something I do, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to stop someone else from doing it. Except their children, like that. So my first thing was, well, can we just stop the proliferation of these things? I mean, can we just, and that's kind of my idea with this ordinance was, let's just put a cap on it. And then we can deal with the enforcement side of us. And are we missing some things for law enforcement? Are we missing some things for our code enforcement, regulatory arm? Are there things in there that need to be in there? The state of California has done quite a bit in that regard, but are there holes? And that was my goal. My goal is not to put somebody out of business. I'm not trying to put anybody out of business. I am just trying to kind of put a cap on this thing. That was my personal thing. And then bringing some regulation to it. Plus, we had heard about some of these operators not being legal. Now, I don't care how you want to transfer your title. If you're not doing things legally, then we'll have a say in that. So that's what we're trying to accomplish here. So if the people that have a concern about giving this to their kids can be served by what's already in there.
I think so, yeah.
I'm fine with that. And if it happens to mean that Bob's Smoke Shop goes on for eternity, I'm okay with that too. I'm not trying to put him out of business, okay? And so if my fellow members feel this way, and if we give people enough time to meet the requirements, I like what we have. Now, if it needs to be gussied up a little bit, maybe we need to do that. The other thing too, though, is that if we change the number of infractions.
See, because if people are selling to kids, I am trying to put them.
Oh, no, we are trying to put them out of it. No, yeah, yes, but that's illegal, and that's fine. And if we can put more teeth into that, I'm all in favor of that. Now, do we need to bring this back again if we change it from 4 infractions to 2 infractions?
No,
Should we?
you should, because you need to provide notice. It's a substantive change.
And I think, too, this gives us a chance. It's funny. The county did this, and no one said boo. I mean, and the county is full of people, and yet nobody said boo. The minute we say something, and it's okay. Public scrutiny, very important. I'm not saying it's not. It's just funny. It's funny and ironic.
I want to clarify something. So
Yes.
when you say bring it back,
Yeah.
you can read the change into the record tonight. That will be first reading.
First reading, right.
And then we'll bring it back for second reading.
Right, okay. But that means it comes back. Yeah, that's a simple change, and it'd come back at our next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I still want to
Go ahead.
be clear on that creek side because what they were explaining to me is their ABC license, they can transfer and they
Right.
can move that from building to
Right.
building, but we're not going to allow that with the tobacco. That's a problem.
Okay. Well, but then it,
Go ahead.
I just have 2 quick comments about Councilmember No's changes. The first concern I have is a violation under the way that this is written now is not just breaking the law. It's being late for your permit. That's a violation. So if you miss that 30-day window, that counts as a violation. And so I would like, if you decide to make that 2 strikes and you're out, that should be actually a violation of state or federal law, not just a violation of the ordinance, because there's a lot of other things in here that they have to comply with that does count as a violation.
Okay, I would agree with
Yeah,
that.
and so maybe we focus in on an actual violation of state and federal law, which would be selling to kids or selling illegal products. And then the other comment I had was that, if a business is in good standing, if they're not violating state and federal law, I don't think that we should tell them that they cannot move or sell their business to anybody that they want. I don't think we should limit it to family. If they're in good standing, they're not violating the law, they're not violating any ordinances, let them sell their business to whoever they want to. Or let them move their business down the street or next door if they want to. And maybe we could separate it and have if your business is in good standing, you're not subject to these limits on the sale or move of your business. If you violate the law during the course of that period there in that year, then all of these things come into effect for you. And so maybe there's something that we can do to actually help businesses that are operating in good faith. I mean, that's one of the benefits of owning a business is being able to sell it to somebody, to be able to cash out and retire and move on. And so maybe we can include something like that in the conversation here.
Well, and another way I was thinking we could work around that is tying this to the ABC alcohol license, because we know that all of the tobacco shops have had violations already, right?
Yeah.
We have not good
They're not good actors.
rule followers
Yeah.
with those people, and so we hold them to a higher standard because they're part of the reason we're jumping through all these hoops. But you have a lot of good businesses who have not had any problems, and those are mostly tied with their alcohol license, their ABC alcohol license. So if we grandfathered with the alcohol license, that would separate the two. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
I
It
understand
does.
that. I guess I have another question then that comes up related to this on the license non-transferable section. Could we, I mean, I know we had this discussion before, can we distinguish between a tobacco retailer where, I don't know, what it would be 50% of their sales are tobacco and tobacco-related product, essentially the smoke shops, versus the gas station and the liquor store and the folks that a very small percentage of their business is actual tobacco sales, and what's transferable and not. Because again, I don't necessarily want to say a gas station can't transfer their license to sell cigarettes in their gas station. I think that's very different than like a smoke shop. Does that make sense? I don't know that we can do that. I might be way offline here. And I know, I'm just trying to get to what you guys are talking to. I mean, I've always been the kind of person who doesn't want this ordinance at all. That's nobody's surprise here. I've said that many times. But I'm trying to work with you all on
Right,
a negotiation that would work.
Well, and that's why I was trying to tie it to the ABC license, because I think all gas stations also sell alcohol. That's why I was,
Beer and wine, yeah.
beer and
Yeah.
wine. You know, if we tied those
Fireball.
two things together.
So essentially, you're saying this license non-transferable section, it would be exempt from businesses that have ABC licenses. If you had an ABC license, you could transfer your tobacco license as well on section 53011.
Yeah, it does. open a
And we
different
also,
can of worms.
let's also remember at least I think it's one of our cardinal rules. We don't want to make this any harder on staff than it should be. I mean, this should be.
Especially since we don't even have a current staff member to do this.
That's true. So we have to be a little careful of that. I'd like to keep it kind of clean. It also assumes that all these other places can't go off the rails and start doing weird stuff. I mean, I can name a number of liquor stores in this town that have been cited for selling to minors and stuff. And so it's not just unique to the smoke shops. They happen to have a track record with PD now, but you know, there a number of these stores have had, and certain grocery stores have had issues sometimes with some of this stuff. So, you know, I'd keep it simple. If there's a way to do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it seemed like the simplest way to solve the people who are wanting to transfer ownership is to give those a 90-day effective to get their
time to do that.
get them time to get their ducks in a row. I still feel pretty strongly about the 2 strikes for state laws because I think we need to be more heavy-handed there to be effective in what we actually set out to do.
I agree. Although, you know, get your permits in on time. I'm sorry. Do it. You own a business. I own a business. I have to do certain things. I have to have insurance. I have to get my insurance in on time. If I don't do it, I don't have insurance. You know, it's part of doing business. I don't want to give people a break on the stuff we require. You know, that's the funny thing. It's like, oh, well, we require it. You can do anything you want. No. They should have to do them all. And the good business owners will do that. We won't have a problem. So if you want to make it 2 strikes and we keep the wording the way it is, I'm okay with that.
Is everyone else okay with that?
Well,
It's a part of it, okay.
I am 1 of 5, so,
Okay.
that's up to everybody else.
I think I'm just going to vote my conscience tonight.
Okay.
I think that's where I'm at on this at this point in time. I think that's where I'm at.
I personally, I just think we still have too many holes in this to pass it as
Oh,
the
no,
way
no,
we're going.
no one's suggesting that.
Yeah.
Well, would you be amenable to continuing this item? We are going to have new staff. It would give us time to flesh out all these concerns. We could meet with staff and come up with something that we feel fits our community.
Right.
So I will make a motion to continue this item. Oh, public comment.
Didn't we take public comment?
We did take public,
It
okay.
was so long ago.
I'll second the motion to continue the item.
Okay.
Well, like I said, I hate to put it date certain, knowing that we don't have a community service director.
Yeah.
So I know that's not.
Well, hold on here, but we don't want to let this hang.
Yeah, that's true. You're
So,
right. We don't want it to go
let's not,
indefinitely.
And I guess to give some direction on this thing, because we're not going to just continue it. And
Okay, to bring it back by
yeah, let's see, 30, 60
Well,
after the
90
holidays.
days.
90 days. Does that sound reasonable?
60 days.
I'm looking at our city manager to
No,
see if.
we can do that. You want us to bring it back to what do you want to see? You want to give.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Give us direction at that
All right.
time? Is that what you're saying?
So, yeah, we're obviously going to have to review the license transferring itself. The 2 strikes, you're out on federal law.
It sounded like to me there was a consensus on that item.
Yeah. Yeah.
2 strikes going from 4
Based,
to 2.
based on the
Maybe, I don't know.
based on the federal law.
Goldberg, I don't know if
Well,
you're
maybe
right.
4 out of
State and
5,
federal.
because
I
I
know where
didn't know
you
what
were
her
with this.
statement meant either.
So,
State and federal.
Yeah. And then
I
from
think
there,
the big
whether or
issue
not
is on the
Yeah.
grandfathering and the transferring of license.
Okay.
If you want us to do something there.
And I don't know if tying it to ABC would work, because then you're just going to have a bunch of people run out and try and get ABC to sell beer and wine. And
Well,
Yeah.
Well, those are kind of, yeah.
Those are formula though, but okay. And the thing with about moving your store, selling your license. I mean, once again, if we're trying to put a lid on it, we don't want proliferation.
Right. But I'm talking about, I mean, we know that situation up there, right?
Yeah.
so it seems like section 5-30-11 needs to be completely reviewed.
Mhm.
License non-transferable.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and in that time, we can also look at how many we have, because I can't remember that, how many licenses we have in the city currently. This would just give time for us to look at all of that.
Is it 17, is that the number, Pierre, of current tobacco businesses? We don't license them.
We
but
don't
know-
license tobacco businesses.
Right, but
so
how many do we currently have?
I know we have, I believe it's 4 vape shops, but how many retailers actually sell tobacco products?
Probably every
we
gas
do not
station
know.
and every liquor
Yeah.
store. I thought there was like 17 of them or something.
Seems like we got a number.
Number in front of me, but I could get you that, because they are required to have a state tobacco.
Right.
Right.
We do know how many.
Okay.
They're in.
It's around there, I would say between
Okay.
Maybe, can I just add one more thing?
Yeah, why not? Sure. Mayor.
Well, I get accused of talking too much. We're trying to, this is the challenge when you take a county ordinance and you try to stuff it into the city, and this always happens whenever we try to do this, and there's always these things, and it bothers me. I know I can't, I'm probably, I don't want to break up any rules. I'm going to give out my thoughts. I think that an ordinance that describes the things we don't want them to sell, single use, all those things, whatever was in there, candy flavored, whatever. There's already plenty of state and federal law about them selling. The state has come in, all the things that we don't want to see sold, keep. Cap it, make a number. 4 smoke shops, a number. And then basically get rid of the rest of it. Violations, but what I'm saying is the rest of it is all the stuff that's got everybody here. Well, can they transfer it? Can they sell it? Can they move it to the place next door? And all that stuff. Can we still have an ordinance that does what we want it to do and get rid of that kind of stuff? So they can run their business. They can sell it to anybody and their brother as long as they're in good standing. They can move it from point A to point B, but point A can't have a tobacco store in it because there's only X number of them. They can sell it to the man in the moon if they want to. As long as they're in good standing, yeah, that's given.
I mean, I'm obviously in favor of anything that is less regulation in this, so I like that idea. I think you do have to have two tiers then. You have to have smoke shops different than the other tobacco retailers.
I agree.
Why?
Because I don't think we want to cap it at 4. Otherwise, I'd want to make the cap way
No.
higher
I
if we're
said
gonna-
the 4 vape shops, the 4, we had decided, I thought, that 4 only vape and tobacco places.
No, we
okay, fine,
we
sorry.
say 2,500,
Okay.
1 per
Well,
2,500
then that
population, which came to 4, but that's all tobacco retailers, not just those
Oh.
Right.
tobacco.
Oh.
Why we're having
Which
this
means,
conversation.
Correct.
grocery stores,
All tobacco
gas
retailers.
I forgot that
stations,
part.
mom and pop
Yeah,
shops,
I got it.
newsstands.
I got it.
Yeah.
Well, the newsstand doesn't sell.
I think that the other thing you need to be aware of and think about that is if you say it differently for an
No, I don't want to, yeah.
alcohol retailer or
Yeah.
whatever, they could expand what they sell in terms of tobacco, et cetera, and it could be the same as become the same as the tobacco
Right.
only shops eventually. So you need to be aware of what
Right.
other consequences could come from that.
Okay.
Moni, you look like you have a thought.
Maybe. So depending on if there's actually a shifting in the council's direction, one thing you could do is wait to find out how many tobacco retailer licenses we actually have. Then add the cap on new ones and say, so if it's 17, for example, you can say no more than 19 tobacco retailer licenses in the city at one time ever. So now you have your cap, so you're not competing with the county with respect to attracting everyone over to Placerville, but at the same time, you're preserving the existing business owners' rights to conduct their business, to sell, lease, exchange, transfer, what have you. And then you keep all of the other regulatory provisions in here so that regardless if you're old or new, you have to make sure that you're complying with state and federal laws.
Yeah. Well, I want to cap it at what we have. I don't want to allow for any more.
We need to know the, we need to
know the total number.
magic number from the county. They will find the magic number for us. Okay. Yeah? Okay. Well, I don't know if we got.
It's a continued,
It's a
but,
continuance.
To continue, yeah.
It's a continuance.
That's
with a
what's on the table, what's the
Major,
motion?
what's on the
With
table
direction to staff, yeah.
Okay,
has been made into a Swiss cheese.
let's listen to Cleve.
Yes.
Let me make a suggestion, see if you like this. I think we have consensus on changing the 4 to 2 violations, that we're good there.
Yes.
Well, maybe. I'm saying maybe not. You're okay with it, or you're against? You're not, okay.
I'm only 1 of 5.
Anyway, but we have a majority, how's that?
Okay.
I think. So what if we went back and did that, and then on the other item, on the transferability, based on what we're hearing, we can come back with 2 or 3 options regarding that, and you select which one of those. Hopefully it's one of those will meet what the majority of you want to do, and that will count as your first reading at that time. So I don't know that we've heard a consensus on anything yet, but we have heard different options, and we can present those and try to come up with the language for those that you can then say, I like A, B, C, or D, whichever one you want to put in there. That would then be the first reading, and then it would come back a second time for the second reading.
How soon can you, how soon?
Push the button.
How soon can you do that?
Well, it gives the opportunity to talk to some of the people who have concerns who we haven't
Right.
been able to engage in.
Right, right.
How much time do we need? I think that if you're going to do that, it will take us some time.
Okay.
I would just request that we continue it, but do we have to continue to a date certain?
If you continue it to a date certain, you don't have to renotice the public hearing. If you don't do that, then we just have to renotice the
I
public
think we
hearing.
would just renotice. I would suggest that
Yeah.
we leave not a date certain. We will keep it on our plans and get it back to you as soon as we can.
As soon as
but,
possible, as soon as possible.
That will give us time to go through those options that I think you want to see.
Okay.
I just have two things on the 2 to 4. So one, I'm fine with changing the number as long as it applies to state and federal law, not just a violation on this.
That's fine.
And I also want to make sure that it is going forward, it's not retroactively applied to folks who are already violators, like as of today, that it would be from like the point of adoption going forward that they had 2 violations.
Like the Fifth Amendment or something like that?
Yeah, I would disagree with that, but I do want to move this forward and
Yeah,
get this
let's get-
done.
The bad actors will act badly in the future. You can almost guarantee that. Okay, so someone make a motion.
I did.
Oh, we did? I'm sorry. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed?
Aye.
Okay, great, thank you.
We're good.
All right, that was amazing. Okay. Let me find my agenda again. 7.7. Consider accepting 3 offers of dedication for public street right-of-way on Green Valley Road along the frontage of assessors parcels number 325-120-030, 325-120-028, and 325-120, I should have said zeros, but 120-059, and directing the city clerk to sign a certificate of acceptance for said offers of dedication. Ms. McConnell.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. The item before you this evening would accept 3 offers of dedication for public street right-of-way on Green Valley Road. In 1983 and 1984, the city received and had recorded these 3 offers of dedication for street, curb, sidewalk, drainage, sewer, water, and public utility purposes along the frontage of these properties on Green Valley Road. The offers have remained in effect until such a time as the city accepts or rejects the offers by resolution. Along the frontage of 7460 Green Valley Road, the offer of dedication is 20 feet wide and generally encompasses the street from the center line of the road to a point 20 feet out. Along the frontage of 7476 Green Valley Road, the offer of dedication generally extends 30 feet from the center line of the road. And along the frontage of 7502 Green Valley Road, the offer of dedication is 20 feet wide from the center of the road. These offers of dedication are within the limits of the Placerville Drive Bicycle and Pedestrian Facilities Phase 1 project. The project will construct curb, gutter, and sidewalk on the north side of Green Valley Road. On the south side of the street, there will be minor work, including a new curb and gutter to direct roadway runoff, but the road will not be significantly widened on the south side of the street. The property owners were notified of the City Council agenda item and given the opportunity to review the action and discuss any questions with me prior to the meeting. Accepting these offers of dedication will allow the city to proceed with the planned construction work on Green Valley Road. And I know since there was a public comment received on this, I would like to address some of the questions that were asked. So primarily, the first question that was asked was, has this project changed since the property owner of 7476 was first discussed about this project? And generally, no, it has not. The frontage improvements that we're constructing is just a curb and gutter along that frontage. A question also was asked about the parking spaces and whether or not the city would be requiring the removal of the parking space that is within that offer of dedication area, and the answer is also no. The project is not going to be affecting their parking lot, their curb, or their business sign in any way. There was also a question about the driveway approach and whether or not that would change, and the answer is no. Their driveway is not changing with the project. It would remain in the same place, and there may be some minor conform paving work just to match grades, but that's it. And also, a question was asked about access during construction, and that's a standard thing that we do with all construction projects. We have to maintain access at all times to at least one driveway during construction to every property. So hopefully that helps answer the questions, and I'm happy to answer any other questions there may be. Thanks.
I will not speak for you. Go ahead. That fully answered all the questions I had. Thank you very much.
See, that's why staff is so good. All right, we've had our questions answered. Does the public wish to comment on this item?
Good evening, Candy Rapp. I am the owner of 2 of those 3 parcels, both 7460 and 7476 Green Valley Road. I am also a resident here of the city for over 40 years. So while I do support and appreciate everything that the council has done to make these improvements, I do have some concerns with this particular project and how it's going to impact both of my 2 parcels and one of my 2 businesses here in town. The first one was when I first attended the public meeting, it was assured to me that it was going to be on the north side of Green Valley Road. And then I get the notice that we're having this meeting tonight and the offers of dedication. And I want to point out that these offers of dedication were signed 40 years ago. That's a whole lot of business owners previously, and there were no known remuneration for those dedications at that time for either parcel. None of the original owners that signed those are actually involved with either of the parcels anymore today. So that's one concern I have. The other is that I have not ever seen the actual design of what's going to be on the south side of Green Valley Road. They've talked about doing the sidewalks, and it was told to me, well, we have the funding for the north side, we're hoping to get it for the south side. So my question is, why do you need 30 feet for a curb and gutter? Because 30 feet of 7476 actually takes away one of our only 6 parking spots for our business, and it actually overlaps where the existing sign was. That sign was put up, by the way, in 1983. So the offer of dedication was made right around that time. So I do have concerns about how that's going to impact both of the parcels. And also, I wanted to find out, is there a statute of limitation on these dedications that were made 40 years ago? And what assurances do I have? Because I was already told one thing and now it's shifting to another. So what assurance do I have that I'm not going to lose a parking spot and now all of a sudden I'm out of code because I only have 5 parking spaces for the size building that I have? And what accessibility is going to be happening. Also, noise is a huge issue, being that we are a hospital. We do have hospitalized patients there, and so I just have some concerns that I was hoping to get addressed tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other public comments?
Thank you. I'm actually an acquaintance of Candy Rapp. Took my dogs to that animal hospital when they were alive. And I was also the right-of-way agent for the county for many years. And I find this really unusual that an agreement that was made 40 years ago, and Ms. Rapp was informed about this a week ago, that's not good practice. And that she hasn't had opportunity to one-on-one sit down and discuss many of her questions. And I also find it very unusual, the taking of property with no remuneration. Never in my years of all the right-of-way work I did for the county for, no, there's always payment for the taking. So I think her question is good about the limitation of this, you know, and I guess this is a legal question. Is there a statute of limitations for someone who agreed upon something 40 years ago? And So I think at a minimum for good business, for good government practice, I think this should be delayed, and there should be opportunity for our engineer to have time to talk to Ms. Rapp about all of her concerns and the business that she's trying to conduct at the animal hospital. This is Sierra Animal Hospital. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Is she coming around the horn? Oh, okay, fine. Well, sometimes they do that. All right. I don't see any other comments. We'll bring it back. Do we have responses? My understanding is they just run with the property, don't they?
Correct.
Yeah, forever. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so that's the answer to that. Yeah, they just, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say the offers of dedication are irrevocable.
Yeah.
So they run with the land, they run with the property owner, and they show up on title reports. So it's not a surprise if there was ever to be right-of-way mapping for the property, that would show up on their right-of-way mapping.
Right.
So it has been an offer of dedication that the city, approved a very long time ago, but for us to actually make improvements on that land, we have to accept it as our city right-of-way. And for all intents and purposes, it has been operating that way for a very long time. It has been the city's right-of-way. It encompasses the existing street, and so there's a lot of reasons why we need to make it official.
Sure. How about, okay.
Can I answer one more?
Yeah, oh, you may answer as many
I
questions
would be
as you'd
happy
like.
to send her a copy of the design to show what is happening, because the sidewalk is only being built on the north side of the street. There really is very little change on the south side of the street. There is an existing curb along the frontage of her property. It's constructed out of asphalt. We are making that a concrete curb and gutter, which will help with runoff, directing it down the hill in a more appropriate way.
Right.
That is the only change we are making. As far as the business sign and the driveway and everything else, the plans will show what improvements are being made and what would be impacted.
Right.
So as we finish the final design process, I'm more than happy to keep her informed and make sure that, we don't change anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
And will there be a somewhat speculative, but will there be a loss of a parking space?
No, there will
Okay.
not.
Okay.
The parking lot is not being affected by construction.
Okay. You made a motion with your thumb.
Either me or Mayor wanted, or City Attorney, excuse me, want to comment? I'll let.
Just a clarification that this is not a taking by the city. It's to be distinguished by an offer of dedication normally occurs when someone wants to subdivide their property. It's recorded with the subdivision tract map, or sometimes a final map, depending on what the agreement is. Sometimes there's a deferred improvement agreement, and so it's usually part of a development project, and it is included to ensure that the property is connected to necessary public facilities, infrastructure, and utilities. And so this is just coming to fruition at a time that these are now needed.
It just happens to be a very long
Right.
time. In some respects, the offer of the God, I used to do this a million years ago when I worked for El Dorado County. The offer of the dedication is a requirement of getting your map approved. If you do not give the dedication, you do not have a map, and you don't have a building or whatever it was you were planning to do. So in some respects, the cost of the dedication is your ability to proceed with your project. I mean, in kind of a roundabout way. I think if I'm bringing up some history here, I believe over on Mallard, the dentist there finally had to put in a sidewalk because somebody developed just beyond him, and he had planted those trees right on the edge of his parking lot, and that's where the dedication was, and then finally there was a sidewalk there. So, these things, and it took, that dentist building was there for a long time before the next thing happened that allowed for the dedication to be made whole. So anyway, all right, thank you very much. I think we have all of our questions answered, okay? We've had public comment. Our lawyer has spoken. Okay. Roll call vote.
Well, I'll move.
I'm sorry.
I'll move staff recommendation.
I thought we did that. Motion?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Now, a roll call vote.
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Councilmember No?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gottberg?
Aye.
Mayor Clarici?
Aye. And with that, we will take a 10-minute break.
Thank you.
Could we just have everybody please sit down right now? Thank you very much. That's everybody. Ruth. Please have a seat. Okay. Oh, sorry. There was multiple. We were Ruth Rich out there. All right. Thank you all very much. We're back. Hope you all had a piece of cake. I did. All right. We have no ordinances. We have a public hearing. Woohoo. 11.1. This is a lot. Consideration of the recommendation of the Planning Commission to, 1, approve a map amendment for Lot 15. Oh, this is something different. Lot 15, I thought this was really something, I'm sorry. Amendment for Lot 17, 2706 Bedford Avenue, APN 050-610-015 of the recorded Quartz Mountain subdivision, modifying the boundaries of the building envelope and reduction of designated open space to accommodate the future construction of a single-family dwelling, and 2, find the project categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, per CEQA guidelines, section 15305. Mr. Rivas.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The property owner is requesting approval to reduce a green space, open space easement along Bedford Avenue from 50 to 20 feet, and modification of the building envelope. Both the open space easement and the building envelope are shown on the recorded map. And these modifications are for allowing for the construction of a driveway encroachment along the southeast portion of the parcel from Bedford Avenue. The building envelope and open space easement are shown on the recorded map, thus requiring an amendment to the recorded map to facilitate these modifications. Due to the steep slope of the parcel along Quartz Mountain, which is 45% or greater, so it's quite steep, the grading and space necessary to accommodate access and construction of single-family dwelling development would actually be extremely difficult or likely impossible. The Planning Commission did consider this request at their November 12th, 2024 meeting and recommended that the City Council approve this request. Staff is recommending that the Council approve the resolution to approve the map amendment for Lot 15 of the recorded Quartz Mountain Phase 1 subdivision. It would modify the boundaries of the building envelope and reduction of the designated open space easement to accommodate future construction of a single-family dwelling based on the findings and the conditions of approval in the resolution, and 2, find that this project is categorically exempt from CEQA. And that concludes staff's report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions up here about this or comments? We do not. Would the public wish to comment on this item? They do not. Do we want to bring this back? I do want to bring it back for a motion.
I'll move staff's recommendation.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Vote.
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
I do say.
Councilmember No?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gottberg?
Aye.
Mayor Clarici?
Aye.
Thank you.
It's a little different, isn't it? Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for that. All right. Now we are to discussion and action items. 12.1, approve revised policies and procedures for special events permits process on city property. Mr. Nishihara.
Thank you, Mayor Clarici, council members. Tonight, we're going to go through a brief overview of some of the revisions that are included in my staff report, as well as some of the recommended changes that have come through some of our discussions. But I want to start by first thanking the community members, as well as the business owners downtown, and everyone who kind of was a part of this process. It's been It's been a very strong and energetic path. We've all been very engaged with this process. And I want to be clear, it's special for a reason, because it's fun. These are events that celebrate our history, celebrate our heritage, and celebrate our culture. And as council member said at the beginning of the council meeting, the most energetic piece is when you see our young families and when you see our community coming together for a parade that has been around for 46 years, for a tree lighting event that some say are 6,000, but in my mind it felt like 30,000, right? So at one point, let's really understand what we're talking about. This is something that's fun, exciting, and energetic. It helps not only to build businesses, but bring our community together. Along those lines, I want to make sure that we stay focused on our goal. We want to be safe, right? We want to be efficient and effective and responsive through this special events permit process for the well-being of our residents, our businesses, and our visitors that come from as far as Modesto, and I had talked to a few of our visitors who had stopped by. The purpose of what we're trying to do, and I'm going to be as brief as possible and expedite this, but we want to be fiscally responsible. We want to support our businesses in economic development, meeting the needs of our citizens and our visitors. We want to do our best to enhance local commerce, and more specifically, we want a well-planned infrastructure to provide high-quality community services. And as part of those city values, that helps us to build a sense of community, leadership, service and quality, business-friendly, economic prosperity. And so if we take all of those things and we kind of encompass it, our three primary focuses is we want to be responsible, we want to be equitable, and we want those legacy events or community events to be sustainable, not just within the community, but financially and fiscally, right? And so as we go through some of these changes, it may not always feel easy initially, and change never is, but we can continue to do the same thing that we've always done and continue to get the same thing that we've always got. I can't repeat that again because that just came out pretty fluently. But what I'm hoping to say is, if we want to be able to affect change, we got to do something just a little bit different, right? So we can get a little bit of a better quality. And so to be able to do that, our research, and in my experience from working with the city of Sacramento, I've worked with the county of Sacramento, through Contra Costa County, the city of San Carlos, the city of Oakley. We've done some due diligence here at the city of Placerville. We did research with Grass Valley Downtown Association and some information from their Chamber of Commerce. We pulled information and research from the city of Yuba City, Roseville, and Camarillo. We've taken a look at our existing events application and guidelines. We've talked to current and past leadership. I have personally talked to current and past leadership, including some of our existing businesses downtown. I've had conversations with our city departments, and including the county of El Dorado County. Some of our community outreach efforts, and I really want to emphasize how well our staff has done, including our department heads and the business owners, in engaging in this process, even including the survey back as far as, I believe it was around 2017, 2018, where Placerville Economic Advisory Committee put out a survey downtown talking about a couple of those things. City Council made it a priority to do an actual workshop where we brought out numerous community members and stakeholders. We, Department of Community Services, added an online survey, as well as added another special events community meeting. We took it to the Recreation and Parks Commission twice, and now we're bringing it here tonight to the City Council. Could we have done more? Absolutely, but at the same time, if I'm being completely honest, being in the field that I've been in for over 25 years, I want to tell you, we've talked about this bad boy a lot, and that's like my professional opinion. So through all of that information and gathering and quantifying and qualifying all of that data, I put together a SWOT analysis to really identify our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Culture is amazing, right? Our heritage, awesome. We have great opportunities ahead of us. However, some of the things that we realize is we need to strengthen some of our collaboration. We do realize there's some deficiencies in some of our resources, especially as the economy starts to impact some of the inflation and our costs, right? Then we take a look at some of the threats that are starting to kind of pop up. New regulations, and again, there's that word, collaboration. It can be a weakness and it can be a threat, but it's also an opportunity, because if we're able to leverage better partnerships and collaborate more and with more stakeholders, then we'll get a better return on our investment. And so taking a look at some of these pieces, some of the questions we want to be able to answer tonight is, first, how shall the city accomplish our mission? Well, we want to focus on some of our outcomes. We want a well-defined and equitable guidelines and policies and procedures to manage the special events applications for the city. And the best way to explain it is we want to be able to get approval for street closures, and I'm being very specific about this, but then at the same time, we also have special events that we want to encourage to happen throughout the entire city. So how do you encompass all of those pieces? So at this point, what we're wanting to do is realize, okay, uphold our culture and our tradition, increase collaboration. What are we going to kind of do? What we wanted to do, and I'll outline the steps as we kind of go through the packet because we did make some changes, is there's an application form, but then there's also an application packet. Those are two complete different components of that process. There's an application that is due, that we're going to talk about, that would be due at the beginning of the year, but then the packet with all of the regulations would be due 30 days prior to the event. And we would eliminate a lot of the second guessing and regulations around, do we keep this street closed? Do we use these water ballers? Do we do this? Do we do that? We want to get the information up front on the application, and then we want to get the packet 30 days prior. And I'll be very frank with you, in my experience over my last 262 days, not that I'm counting, it's been very difficult because people love what they do and they're really passionate about it. And sometimes it's not the most organized and we get a lot of information late, right? And what that does is that kind of puts a little heavier impact on staff. And I'm going to be frank, it kind of puts us in a different light where we may not be as safe in certain situations that we want to be if we were preventative about it versus proactive, right? I think the 6 Ps are proper prior planning prevents poor performance. I mean, that's really kind of where we want to go with it, right? So what role does the city want to be able to play with that? Now, obviously, there's a difference between the legacy events that we're hoping to kind of define more. Halloween was amazing. Businesses were out. We had a couple hundred kids going up and down the street. It was a fantastic. I remember, I think Shaggy was there, right, Pierre? You were Shaggy for the event, which was pretty awesome. And so these events, hometown holidays, when we're talking about the tree lighting, we're talking about some of those things, other community events, the Rise and Shine, community cleanup days, fishing derby. As a recreation and park professional, creating community through people, parks, and programs is something that we uphold as our primary philosophy. These are things that we're good at. I may not be good at digging holes in the street and being compliant with about traffic regulations, but I'm amazing at a dodgeball and bubbles. So these are the fun things that we want to be able to encompass. So from those pieces, what role do we want to play and define which legacy events those are? Another component is, where do we want to talk about historical or more legacy events around co-sponsorship, the Christmas parade, wagon train, Founders Day or Golden History Day, the annual car show. These are pieces where we want to be able to support it. We may not be able to prioritize it high fiscally because we do have other priorities, but at the same time, we definitely want to be a part of it to uphold some of our community's traditions. Some of the main and primary changes that we are recommending, or that I'm recommending today, are really around properly managing the annual amount or annual number of street closures impacting the historic Main Street downtown, establishing an annual permit deadline and period with specific timelines and deadlines, expansion of some of the terminology so we're kind of all on the same page, inclusion of increased regulations as stipulated by El Dorado County Health Department or Environmental Management, and then identifying what some of those legacy events are and which events we would be lead sponsors versus which events we would be co-sponsors, and then kind of defining who would be responsible in certain cases to be able to cover some of those costs, whether they're indirect or direct costs. And so I'm going to go through this as briefly as possible, but when I'm talking about direct costs versus indirect costs, there are administrative costs that we do incur in regards to processing the permit and ensuring that we're able to bond insurance or to work with Public Works on which street closures, or talking about if there is a need for a safety review or an encroachment permit. Some of those things are typical day-to-day operations that we're going to go ahead and process anyway. However, would be indirect costs. The direct costs are really kind of the individuals that want to come in to be able to provide a large global or countywide event that are more for profit, where they're trying to provide an event to be able to have a net gain as opposed to a zero balance gain. So those individuals who want to be able to come in, that'd be great. Absolutely. We want to be able to promote as much industry as possible to get revenue into our city. However, there is a cost to that, and if there's a for-profit component, then it is the recommendation of staff that they are able and responsible to cover those direct costs. However, for smaller events that may or may not be a legacy event or a co-event, we want to be able to provide some clear guidelines on what those indirect costs are. And I'll be very specific, and I know the public has been asking for it too, and at the risk of sounding like I haven't been doing my job, I had not really been granular or specific with how we want to be able to charge for these events for two particular reasons, and I'll be very specific. Every event is so unique and so different. As people become creative, those costs could go up and those costs could go down. What we'd like to do, and I've been speaking with our finance department, is come up with the metrics that allows them to be able to define what are those specific indirect costs, what are those specific direct costs, and be able to give them a fee schedule and say, if you're going to close this street, it's going to cost this. If you're going to have these components or these amenities, it's going to cost that. I've had a chance to right now participate in one tree lighting event and one parade. I want to be able to, once the year is over, really analyze and quantify what those costs are, where we can save some of those costs, and how we can be able to delineate which are direct costs versus which are indirect costs. The one other big piece, and I know that there was some confusion when I had originally put out the guidelines, is I am separating what is a special event versus what is a downtown special event. And so I want to be very, very clear about what that is. There is a 60-day notice, and I will talk about those specifically when I outline it, in regards to a general event. I'm not talking about closing downtown. I'm not talking about getting the fire department out or public works out. I'm talking about just a general special event in where they have to meet specific guidelines because we want them to be safe. However, as it has to do with closing Main Street downtown and or impacting businesses or property owners, we want to be able to get that at the beginning of every year, but we also want to be able to, as DCS, tell them what the requirements are, no less than 120 days from the start of their event. So if their event is on July 4th, 120 days prior to that is when we're going to set up their intake meeting so that they know what their requirements are, they know what their potential costs are, they know how it's going to work, they can start to plan, they'll get a provisional permit, and then we'll get all of the final documents 30 days prior so that we are compliant with both county, state, and city regulations. Everything from a business license to what is called a temporary food permit for a special event that provides food to the public. The other piece that is a part of that is establishing a deadline for all annual events that impact downtown street closures no less than the last business day, and I'll go through those dates, in January. So we would get the applications in January, and then we would be able to plan out with City Council's approval how we would be able to schedule out when we needed to do the intake meeting and when their actual application packet was due. I know this is a lot, so I'll reiterate some of it. So I went as far as out to 2030. I didn't put it all in there, but this would basically indicate all applications for 25 and 26 would basically be due on January 31st, 2025. I know it's difficult for us to be able to pencil certain things in that far out, so we are willing to work with the community. However, those legacy events and those long-term events that we know are already coming, we kind of have on our radar already. Halloween, Wagon, History, we have those. We know those. We can predict those pieces out. Are there going to be nuances? Absolutely. Is this perfect? I would hope that it is, but there is room for improvement. The only other piece that I will say around that component in regards to the January 2026, there have been some conversations about potentially moving that to maybe July, but I would say that if we are going to consider co-sponsoring or leading an event, one of the timelines we want to be very conscientious about is the budget cycle for the city and when we're adopting our budget at the beginning of the year. Realistically, if I had my wish and a magic wand, I'd be like, man, let me get information as far back as November. But we kind of know that's unrealistic. That may meet our budget timeline so we can get more funds and we can get it adopted. But the reality is this is kind of like the best equilibrium for us to be able to find. We are more than happy to work with those individuals who are applicants or event applicants to try and work through some of those nuances within that first year. But ideally, by the beginning of 2026, we would get 27. By the beginning of 27, we would get 28. I don't know if anybody's ever had a chance to like reserve a camping space up at Yosemite, but you just know. Everyone knows this is what's happening. You got to get it done in advance, right? The other component that I want to talk about is how we limit some of the restrictions to closing downtown. Now, we've talked about this numerous times, and I know that there is a sense of the weather around October, November, and December. We were very fortunate. I actually made it not rain. You're welcome for that. The one piece I really want to be clear is it rains in December. It also rains in January and February. If we could predict the weather as well as our weather people do, then we should be in that business. But no one's ever going to be able to really kind of predict that. So at the same time, we want to be able to encourage other organizations and companies and businesses that there are other components in the year. I'll jokingly tell one story around meeting with a local organization that they're interested in bringing back an event for downtown. And so we had a small conversation. And as soon as that individual said May, I said, you had me at May. I mean, that's the goal. We want to be able to not impact all of our businesses right in that Q4. And so the best that we can do right now is hope that we would be able to spread that out to the maximum of 8, realizing that the wintertime is popular. Everyone loves the holidays in October and November. The consensus that we got from the public, including the Recreation and Parks Commission, was, okay, well, let's try to keep 1 in Q1. We'll put 3 in the Q4. I mean, that's a nuance we could kind of talk about, but the reality is the 8 is really what the maximum is one that I would like to recommend. At one point, we had about 12, and that was a huge impact to not only our staff, but our resources as well. With that said, there are some other changes that I wanted to recommend when I went through the special events resource guide, and I'm going to touch on them really quickly. On page 4, there was, and I take responsibility for this in regards to how it was written. I think there was some confusion around the street closure request for Main Street Placerville events. So the Main Street Placerville events would be due by the last business day in January, and you would submit a completed special event permit application form to DCS no later than 60 days prior to the event date for standard special events. So there's a delineation there in regards to downtown versus the standard ones. We have received a few for January already that aren't street closures, for example, that will require a public safety review. We get that in 60 days in advance. We're not closing any streets. We don't need anything in addition to that. Then we can help to work with them for those pieces. In regards to step 4, I did change some of the verbiage there to make it read a little better, where the DCS specialist will schedule an application intake meeting with the applicant to review all details no less than 60 days prior to the event and up to 120 days in advance of the event. That's what we want to try and work towards. The other change is on page 6, in where the consideration would be taken in regards to, as opposed to having both applications for 2025 and 2026, perhaps modifying the January the 31st, 2025 for 2026 to July 2025 for the year of 2026. We could definitely entertain that recommendation. There were some other pieces on page 10 in where the venue location. What we're hoping to do, and this came up actually just recently within the last day, where an individual wants to be able to provide hay rides and we want to be able to notify the businesses downtown, we'd be willing to work with them on that. And so some of the verbiage that we included was event organizers are responsible for acquiring approval for use of property from the owner or designee and may include notification or permission from the adjacent property owner. Just in case there's a concert in Lions Park and the neighbors get mad, we might want to notice them. That was a funny joke, right? Jackie, I did that just for you. And then one of the other revisions that had come up is in regards to the definitions on page 21 under what is indicated in the packet as historical event. I like the word legacy, and my recommendation would be to change that to legacy event and utilize the word consecutively in where the statement reads, an event hosted within the borders of the city of Placerville, facilitated annually over a period of 10 years consecutively, or theme-based educational significance with a direct benefit to the residents, businesses, cities, or visitors. With that said, there are a lot of pieces here, but I want to clarify in closing, there are a few very, very important points, whether we look at the guide as a whole or we take a look at some of the primary components. The goal for tonight, ideally, would be to seek approval for 8 annual downtown events, limiting it to 8, establishing the deadlines for those said events, understanding what some of the permit requirements are when we get the packet versus the form, identifying which legacy events we want to be, the city would choose to be as lead or co-sponsors on. And with that said, if I missed anything, I apologize. I'm here for questions. Thank you very much for your time.
Wow, that was great. Wow. That was, I mean it. That was a really good presentation. There was, yes, there are a lot of words. But it was very good. Dennis, that was great. Thank you very much. This is an oddly complex subject, and you covered a lot of things. Do we have any questions for staff at this time or comments from folks that have reviewed the document?
I'm gonna ask a question. I kind of think you hit this, but there's a section on parades that lists marches. I know that there's a group of folks that do a Martin Luther King Jr. Day walk down the sidewalk, and it does say including those limited to the sidewalks. So I just want to try to understand, like, does that count as a downtown event if it's not a street closure and it's a walk on the sidewalk, or what permitting? No. Are they the 60 days? Like, how does that play into this for somebody like that?
Yes.
I'm just.
So I have done events and I understand the safety component of it, but I defer to the police department and to engineering if there is a need for an encroachment permit. In that particular case, because there are no significant street closures, we would treat that as a 60-day permit, a special event,
Okay.
right? And so are there going to be things that we may add to the provisional permit? That would be based on the safety review. Now, again, not an expert, but that's the process that we would go through.
Okay, I just wanted clarity because when reading it and it talked about marches limited to sidewalks, and I know we have at least one march limited to a sidewalk downtown.
Good question.
Yeah.
Jackie, I'm sorry. I keep doing that because we're neighbors.
That's okay. Come to me last because
Council member, no. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so when I look at this, I feel like we need to prioritize events. I mean, we look at a chart that says 3-2-2-1, but we're not prioritizing the seniority of events. We need to talk about which events the city's going to pay for, which ones we're not going to pay for.
Right.
You know, other things that we have discussed in past meetings are like the time that we're going to close Main Street. You know, I thought, talking about 2:30, it allows your businesses to basically have their business, because everybody who has an event is always going to come in and they always try 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock, whatever. You know, sometimes that's not possible with the parade and everything. But as we look at, you know, new events that are going to come forward and make these things, do we want to put some sort of standards on that? And also, you know, the evening events, they don't have the same impact that the day events do on the merchants, and also fire season. When I look at the third quarter, you know, if you're going to have 2 events and they both want to have those in September, you're looking at the height of fire season, which is something we were trying to avoid having too much of. And does it impact the merchants if you have it like weekend after weekend? Do we want those spread out, you know, one month, one another month? So those are just some thoughts to start with. Another thought I have is the budget impacts, and you talk about the applicants paying the city 30 days after the event, and I think that's a bad idea. I don't think the taxpayers should be responsible for funding people's events. I think that that should be due like 60 days before the event. You know, if you don't have the money in the organization for that event, that, you know, that otherwise the city's going to be chasing people for that money afterwards. And it also forces people to get serious and be organized to move their event forward. That's what I have for now.
I had one, yeah, I agree on the money. A healthy chunk of the money should be before the event, or, I mean, and this is not, everybody works really hard. We have great events. I have been involved in events on Main Street in the past. I know how hard a job it is. But if we'll just have a whole bunch of people coming up to that podium and telling us their sad story about how they didn't quite come up with all the money they did to do their event that happened 45 days ago, and then we're put in a terrible position of saying, well, that's terrible, but you still owe us, and it puts the council in a potentially really lousy spot. And so trying to get the money, at least a majority of it up front, I think is a good idea. The thing with this quartile thing here on page 5, and I understand the idea of wanting to spread them out, and I understand the impacts potentially on Main Street. But for example, October, November, December, I am aware of now 4 street closure events. And as far as I know, Halloween, the November 2nd, and I'll just massacre it, so I'm not even going to say what it is. Sugar Skulls, but it has a very nice sort of just
Dia de los Muertos.
Thank you very much. You see, that's why I didn't say it. The tree lighting and the Christmas parade, or the holiday parade, are all fixed in time. You can't, you can't do any of them on I mean, as far as I know, someone can enlighten me, but as far as I know, those can't change. So if we continue on, at least what we did here just recently, we're going to have 4 events in Q4. Because, it's not like the car show where you can have it in April or May or June or July. I mean, you can have a car show whenever you want. You can't have Halloween in July. So anyway, I just want to bring that up. And these are maybe nuances, but I'm just saying that's one issue there that I'm kind of needs to be kind of just meted out. And that's it for me. Anything down here?
Well, I would just say that as it's written, you are allowed to have 1 extra per quarter, so that would allow for 4 in that.
Yeah,
with our approval. I mean, and that's the Sugar Skulls is a newer street closure event. It used to just be kind of the corner. Well, the first year it was just the corner of the bell tower, and now it's expanded. And
yeah,
so it does allow us to do that if we choose to add that 4th event.
And I understand that, but my gut tells me it's going to not be an extra event.
Right.
Off into the future. Now, I also understand that they may be reimagining it as well. So,
can I
go
add
ahead.
an
You may.
item on that particular topic? Yeah. So I kind of just wanted to agree. I think we should set that basis for, seeing as that's what we did in 2024. And as somebody who went to all of those except for Halloween, they all had crowds that required street closures. Yeah. So, there's no way any of those events, based on the number of people, would be safe without a street closure. Yeah. Like a bell tower closure would not be sufficient. And I don't want to be the arbiter of whose cultural holidays are more or less important than others. I really do not want to be, as a city council, in the position of doing that.
Okay. Other? Okay, go.
Well, I mean, you guys are going over Q4. I mean, there has been mention and talk of combining the tree lighting and the Christmas parade on the same day. So now you're down to 3. But, we would have to take, if we were going to do something like that, of course, we would want public comment on that. We would want cost on that, because even though you're combining them, you're also extending the day out. So what's our true cost and all that kind of stuff, if you're trying to limit 2 things to 3. Having it at 4, as long as we're not having bigger issues with the downtown merchants and having now all of a sudden we're going to 4 with the street closures in quarter 4. So such not. There are some solutions, but I think those solutions need to be vetted out.
Well, and getting to the, like, for example, Halloween and Sugar Skulls, those will move a little bit with the calendar. So for example, this year it's your trifecta. It's Friday and Sunday, I think, if I read my calendar correctly. Next year it's Friday but then it'll be like Tuesday and Thursday. Not that merchants don't care. I'm not saying that. But at least in terms of the weekend impact in prime shopping time, blah, blah, blah. We have to figure out a way to get all those people to go into a store. That's what we need to do. That's really important. Okay, so that's it. Do we have any more comments, questions? Are we good for now? Okay. We would like to open this up for public comment, please. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Larissa Lujan, and I'm also on the Parks and Rec Commission, of which I sit on as chair for. And I wanted to save you guys a little bit of time. The last Parks and Rec meeting that we had on this topic, we discussed in great detail. In regards to page 5, of which you guys were discussing how the numbers were supposed to be adjusted for the quarters, it was actually the recommendation from our commission that the last quarter be changed to 4. And the first quarter was changed to 0, so I'm really not sure how that might have gotten missed in this paperwork. And we also discussed this in great detail. For example, if the city of Placerville takes over the 3 events that are allocated in the last quarter, which would be Halloween, Christmas parade, and the Christmas tree lighting, that doesn't leave the opportunity for example, Sugar School Art Walk, that is very dependent on the November 2nd fourth quarter date. It was also discussed in great detail that we wanted to make sure that any member of the public that wanted to apply for the fourth quarter had the opportunity, and if the city takes over the 3 spots, then there's no opportunity for that last quarter for someone to do their own public event, which is why it was recommended to actually change that to 4. Otherwise, by default, someone like Sugar School their only option would be to apply for an appeal and to hopefully make it into that last quarter. So in the name of also equitableness, we would want to make that opportunity available in the fourth quarter. The other thing that was discussed in great detail was the idea of what does it mean for the city to lead and co-lead. It was a very common theme for the public comments that people who are very involved in these events with their volunteerism or their co-sponsorship really wanted to maintain their lead role with the city. Things like Halloween and the Christmas parade have had huge co-sponsors, and it's been noted from the public comments that I've seen in the public events that I've held for public opinion, that was very important, that it wasn't falling to the city to take on that full leadership role, so that way their volunteerism and the efforts that they've put into it historically continue forward. So really, I think one of the main things that I remember, a key phrase from the public was they want to maintain the marriage between the city taking a leadership role and the public assisting, instead of it feeling like it's a divorce. So.
Since you're on the committee, you can speak longer.
Oh,
a little bit.
Yeah, I think that was the main things. Is I really want to make sure that that number is adjusted as we had recommended in the name of what was equitable and perhaps a little more fair. That way, the city doesn't take over those last 3 in the last quarter. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Don't be bashful.
Hey guys, I'm Tony. Disclosures, I guess, Park and Rec and Park Commissioner on the Peak. I also own TW Bonkers, and I'm the mayor of Halloween. I've been humbled a few times with different city choices and resolutions. Trip to Green, I was completely against I thought it was going to ruin my business, and it didn't. Sugar Skull, I didn't think we should have a street closure, and I thought it was going to ruin everything, and what a great night that was, too. I originally made a motion for 3 street closures on the Rec and Park, and we talked about it, and after Sugar Skull, 4 seems to be pretty cool. I think with the fact that Halloween and Sugar Skull is going to move, my biggest concern this year was the fact that Sugar Skull was going to be on a Saturday, and oh my, but then guess what? Halloween's going to be on a Saturday in 2 years too, so, I think 4 is cool. What I would like to say is that you're going to hear from some other of my favorite merchants here in town about the fact that they want to have the tree lighting and the parade on the same day. I'm not going to give my opinion on that yet, but I think that's a bigger conversation. I don't think that decision should be made this evening. I think that should be something that we discuss with the merchants and we discuss with the public as well, because it's the public's event. It's really not the merchants' event. I'm told this a lot, but I also agree that I'm in an unusual position that when street closures happen, usually my store doesn't do poorly, but I also have data, if anybody ever wants to see it, of when the streets close, and my customer count goes down or up depending on what's going on that. But all I want to say is that this has been a real fun process to be a part of. All of the merchants get along really well most of the time, and everybody's opinion matters, but I really do want to say that if there is going to be a decision to not have 4 street closures in Q4 and combining 2 of the events, that should be a bigger conversation in the future. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you for your comment.
Okay, Ruth Michelson. So I took a lot of notes. Thank you, Dennis, for that very thorough presentation. And it was the second or third time I've heard it. Each time it gets a little better because I went to the Recreation and Parks where it was presented twice. So thank you. And I've just, in a very messy way, taken some notes, so I hope I can read my own writing. On offhand comment about merchants, I don't think he really meant this, not caring about the day of the week. Oh, yes, we do. Don't mess with our Saturday and Sunday. We care a lot because those are our big business days. Although I did so appreciate, for instance, Sugar Skull having a later closure. That makes a big difference. If they close at 4 o'clock, at least for my business and many of the others, things really die down anyway. At 4 o'clock, people are heading home to make dinner. So the time of the closure makes a big difference. How am I doing on time? I really liked what Dennis had to say about moving to July instead of January for some of this, because January is so late for events that are going to happen in June. I'm no longer heading up or taking a leadership role in Wagon Train Golden History Days. I did it for 3 years, enough. But there's others in the room who are taking a leadership position, which is great time to hand that off to others. But let me tell you, when I did it for 3 years, it was a year-round effort, and fundraising is a year-round effort. And you can't find out 120 days ahead what your costs are going to be because fundraising, the work is phenomenal. It's a phenomenal amount of work. So I like that July idea. Okay, moving on. I hope with things like parades going down the sidewalk, I hope that the city stays minimally involved. We really can handle things without you. Sorry to say that, but I have Third Saturday artwork that we do every month, and you know what I mean? You've got enough to do, so don't get involved in things that don't require permits. That's my thought. And as Tony brought up, yes, I'm a proponent for on Sunday combining the parade and the tree lighting, make the parade a little bit later, make the lighting at 5 o'clock. People then can go home. Yes, it's a Sunday night. No, don't combine on Friday. Leave us alone for Black Friday. Let us have our business. Make it all on Sunday. But yes, I agree with him. It's part of a much bigger discussion. And with 14 seconds, maybe those are the high points. just giving more time, more ahead of time. And I'm curious about the contract, Dennis, that you're, okay, real quick to finish. I think that county council should review that contract that you're having, that you want.
How about
Not county council,
city council?
Well, the council for the
A
city.
lawyer, a lawyer to name later.
I used to be a contract manager. I don't want to go into the whole thing, but there's some things that I think should be reviewed. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Placerville Antiques. We will be hopefully heading up the living history end of this wagon train, and looking forward to it. We have a setup time about 6 in the morning because we start at 9, and we're off the street at 4? 6 o'clock, off the street at 6, so that's a long day. As far as Tony's situation, I didn't think, I thought we could separate the Christmas parade from the tree lighting until I saw what happened at the tree lighting. There's no way we can run a parade down Main Street with 6,000 people waiting for a tree to be lit up. So with that said, the other thing was the car show. As much as I love it, and I do love it, I don't know what they bring. Be honest with you, they babysit their cars. They don't get around. They don't meander. They just set up their chairs and babysit their cars. And we really didn't get any effect as far as merchants go. I mean, it's a fun event, but as far as the merchants go, it was a big zero for us. The other events, we stay open late. We did well. So just to let you know.
Thank you for your comment.
Hello, Elena Tucker. I have Art Studio 360 on Main Street. I'm also the current president of the Placerville Merchants on Main Merchants Group. And I am not good at this, so I apologize if I stumble over my words. But two things I wanted to point out. One, I'm totally for moving the Q1 event to Q4. No one wants to have an outside event in Q1 because the weather is almost always bad. And you're not going to do something outside if it's raining or freezing, which we ran into last December with our art walk. It was very quiet because it was so cold outside. And then the other thing about payment, you mentioned wanting payment 60 days in advance. Some of these events generate their income during the event, like Oktoberfest or possibly like what we used to have, the Brewfest, but we want to reimagine where there are sales during the event that generate the income to cover it. So paying in advance would be very difficult for some of these events. The ones that are paid for through sponsorships and fundraising, great, but when the income is generated that day, you know, we would have to take out a loan to pay in advance. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any more comments?
I'll put my 2 cents worth in. Sue Rodman, resident and just a participant. I don't own a business. So I just come to the events, and I really do appreciate them. But I do realize that you need to limit them, because if you've got every darn weekend, Main Street is closed, pretty soon you start looking for somewhere else to go, and people go, okay, I can go to Folsom and get the same stuff, and I don't have to deal with Main Street being closed. So that's one of the problems with too many Main Street closures. If it's 1 week, okay, I can do this on a Tuesday, or I can come next weekend. But if I'm facing every weekend being closed on Main Street, this is not good. This doesn't allow me to support my local businesses. So I very much appreciate the idea of getting this down to 8. And I think the car show does very well at the fairgrounds. That's an appropriate place for it. I don't think it's appropriate for Main Street. So those are my comments, and I appreciate Dennis's. This is the best presentation and the best ideas I have seen in years for how to handle special events. You know, very good. Let's get this thing organized and do a good job with it, and then people will know what to expect. And you can participate, and you'll have an idea in advance of what's going on.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? All right. Seeing no one else, we will bring it back. What is the pleasure of this august body?
Do you want me to make comments on comments? Because I have them. I mean, people brought up
Comments on comments.
different things like having 4 events in the fourth quarter. And if we were going to have, you know, those set 4 events in the fourth quarter, then we don't want the floating one. But oh, wait, we do because we want the homecoming parade, which is also in the fourth quarter.
That's true.
So,
But that's not a street closure. That is a rolling closure. Just saying.
rolling Main Street closure.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't close it. It just sort of slows it down.
I just think we need to realize those things.
Yes.
You know,
There are
and
many
it-
things.
Yeah, and if we're going to say 4 in the fourth quarter because we're going to have Sugar Skull there, then I don't want one more open. A lot of merchants make a majority of their money in the fourth quarter, and we want to impact that fourth quarter as little as possible, which is almost impossible since that's when all the holidays and events are. But, you know, we don't want to add to that as well. You know, so then those questions come up, you know, what do we close Main Street for? Is it any event that anyone can afford? Or do we have some expectations? And also, do we have an attendance expectation that if you close Main Street, you know, you need to have Main Street packed? We're not just closing it because you have the money and it's fun, because it does impact our businesses.
Yes. Yes. Anything else?
Not yet.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I see some of those things, including hours and stuff. That's part of when we get our applications in January and review them. We see who applies, and then we decide which we want to accept and not accept, and what hours we want to allow them to have. Like the detail of that depends on the applications that we receive. I'd like to put the 4 in the fourth quarter. I like that. And I still want to leave one open for our subject to discretion. I mean, I don't want to limit ourselves in not having that ability if for some reason, I don't know, a giant Diwali or Rosh Hashanah event comes through and they are, you know, October, and, you know, I just don't want to limit our ability to do that.
And we need
a possibility.
Right. How do we leave that open as an option for something special and different, but not just anybody? Well, you have that opportunity, and I want to do that, but we don't think that's really a great use of a fourth quarter closure.
I see this as a limit, not a we must approve this many events in this quarter. I think we could approve less.
Okay.
Right? I mean, again,
Because
it's our
we'll
discretion.
look at them all together, and that will be
Yeah.
the advantage of reviewing all of the events all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think for 2026, we should move that from next month to July. I just think that's too early this first year.
I mean, 2025. What if we did March 31st? What if it was
March is fine. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I think it's a little bit rough. I mean, obviously for 2025, we need those like ASAP, so next month makes sense. But telling people for 2026, they need to get their application in next month at the end of January, to me, that's too early. They need more time. So this is it's only for this first section, not going forward into the future.
Right. I'm just looking at March 31st because, you know, the winter's slower, people have time to do things, and the longer you give people to do things, they'll wait until the last minute to do those things.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I just don't want it to be I don't want it to be next month.
No.
I don't want people who want to have an event in 2026 to have to get their application in a month from now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just don't want to push it to July, so
Yeah.
we can do March 31st.
I'm totally fine with
good
March.
that.
March 31st. Okay. Any? Yeah, I sort of coined that phrase, and I wish I hadn't. Legacy events. I was trying to think of. I was literally organizing things in my own head, which is a challenge, and I was thinking not legacy events, because certainly like the wagon train has the longest legacy. They've been doing it for 75 years, so that's obviously a legacy event. But what I was thinking of was more along the lines is the events that I am familiar with, that the city has had a major, like Halloween, the parade, even though the parade has an organizer and they do a great job. And the tree lighting, those are the ones I was thinking about, not like legacy, like long lived or whatever. So I kind of wanted that, but I didn't see it in the glossary. It looked like it got purged or something like that. If it hasn't been, take it out and call it something else.
Well, it got updated to 10 consecutive years.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, yeah.
But yeah, I fully support the 4 in December also, removing it from January, and then the March sounds good to me too. It's a good compromise for 2026 to allow people more time.
Sure.
So,
yeah. Anything else?
I also agree that we want people to pay at least like 75% prior to their event.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a bill collector.
Excuse me. And I guess just an overall perspective of this, we had a very good, we on Mondays, the mayor and the vice mayor get together and go over the agenda with the city manager and the assistant city manager, whatever your title is, and with Dave, and talk about the agenda. And we talked about this a lot. And I think one of the things that I certainly want to get out to the public is, we're not against things on Main Street. I love Main Street. As I say, I buy lots of things on Main Street. Most of my purchased meals are on Main Street. So I love Main Street. I'm down there a lot. But we want to just sort of organize and manage these things. What we did talk about, though, was promoting more events, not that, kind of like the closing of Main Street is like the ultimate thing. Like you close it down. It means something. You close it down. There's no traffic. You have lots of personnel and stuff that have to come in, city staff, and even for the volunteers, when you close the street, they have more responsibilities as volunteers. Like I said, I've done these kinds of things on Main Street. And what we were trying to do is figure out a way, and I think this application process speaks to this, is to have things like, I wasn't around for Oktoberfest, I was out of town, or it wasn't Oktoberfest this year, it was called something else.
No, it
was it
was.
called Oktoberfest? Okay, great. Anyway, the road wasn't closed. We used the parking lot up at Mustard and Ketchup and some other stuff. And from what I heard, it was a really cool event. It kind of had things going on. People that went down there. Like I said, I did not go because I was out of town. But it was a really cool event.
Yeah, there were a lot of people. The sidewalks were packed.
Yeah.
People had a great time watching the wiener dog races, which happened to be in the shade because of the parking lot we had in it. That part was really good. There are things that need improvement.
There's always stuff that you can always do an after-action report.
But it's an ability to have more events without all the cost and the hassle of closing Main Street.
Right.
So talking more about hybrid events, where maybe we close 1 or 2 parking lots to have those events in the parking lots, so you can have more people on Main Street, but we don't close the road.
Right. So anyway, we are in fact thinking of ways to try to make that space more flexible for doing more kinds of events. We have this cap on the big ones that close the street, or suggested sort of limit. But how do we expand it to do more things that are smaller, that can kind of punch things? Anyway, I'm not that creative, but I just want y'all to know that we actually take this very seriously, and we're not anti anything. At least I'm not. Okay. Do we have direction to staff? Because I think we're going to want this to come back.
Oh,
Yeah, okay.
We got too much. There's too much here.
Yeah. Yeah, they're asking for direction. You can tell Dennis, look at him. He's asking for direction. So do we want to give him some direction? Or have you got
From this
enough notes?
conversation, do you feel like you have a more of a feel of the council or things that need to be, or do we?
I think if the direction is to bring it back, I can revise it based on the conversation and discussion that we had today. I think one of the other components that I did fail to mention in my original presentation in regards to some of the comments the mayor made, I did include in that definition what I'm coining as a public space closure would be identified as public property space available to closure for use as a special event location, site managed by the city of Placerville, which includes but not limited to trails, parking lots, parks, undeveloped but accessible space.
Yes.
And so I think those are a couple of those pieces. The only thing that I really want to be clear on, if anything, is because it is December and we want to get moving, if we are in fact changing the 25 deadline to March, I want to be clear about that because we do have a lot of individuals that are already asking about that application. So,
We were talking about the year for 26 rather than,
oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so I think for 25, I would like us to move forward with
yes.
applications in January for 25, because that is the 25
Yeah,
year.
yes.
I was just referring to the 26 year.
So if we could get some agreement, I don't know if we can kind of pull out some of those important ones so we can get moving with some of the stuff we need to do right now.
So what I would suggest is that if you can make a motion regarding item 1 in the staff report, which is the total number of events in the quarters that we've discussed and where those fall.
Okay.
Item number 2, the deadline for at least, well, you could set those 2 deadlines, I think, right now that we discussed. And then the last one would be, I think it would be good to establish
Number 4.
item number 4.
Item number 4,
Which
identify
is
legacy special events.
Those legacy events that as I understand it, the city will be sponsoring/paying for the costs of those.
Right. Okay.
Those are the 3 items that I think would be important to do tonight. And then we can go back and revise the guidelines, et cetera, get that all in accordance with that and hopefully bring it back for your adoption. But it allows us to move forward with those things for now.
Yes, I have a motion in that regard.
all right, so we talked about the events, we talked about the deadlines, we haven't talked about what the city's going to pay for. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so now we got to get to the uncomfortable conversation.
Nothing uncomfortable.
There's nothing, okay.
Well,
Well, I mean,
okay, correct me if I'm wrong, reading the presentation, you're still kind of researching some of the costs?
We have all of the data. What I'm trying to do is kind of compile it to put it into a more understanding format in where this year, for example, I was a pretty direct involvement with the tree lighting event. And because of some of the changes and how it's evolving, I am kind of doing research, but less research and more compiling data and quantifying it. So,
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So it sounds like you're going to be bringing some of those costs back to us, so.
Correct.
we don't have to make that decision.
Right.
We need to make it for 2025, I believe. And I believe our budget, through this current budget cycle, was Halloween, Christmas parade, and tree lighting were the 3 that we put in this year's budget. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess my first thought is we do those 3 because that's what we put in our budget.
Yes.
Well, they're already over, we already paid for them.
Well, I know, but we would do.
But I'm just saying that we would do that for
For-
next fiscal year.
So those are the 3, which is what I was thinking, at least for now.
And we are consistent next fiscal year with this fiscal year in terms of what we are willing to pay for.
Our city manager wants to say something.
Even though we don't have those costs, I think we need to let those that are interested in sponsoring those events know that they'll be responsible for the cost, so that they know whether or not, that may impact whether or not they decide to even apply for an event.
Okay.
So that could, I suppose that could change later. I mean, there's some things that I've looked at in ways to help fund some of these events through different resources we have that might come back to you later. But I think that they need to understand that potentially they could have that full cost. And I think we have somewhat of an idea, and what we did last fall, that we're in that $5,000 to $8,000 range for a full-blown road closure with everything. So I think they have an idea of that. Now, those numbers will probably change, but I think that's kind of a range that they'll be in. And again, giving them that information so they know, hey, if I'm have to come up with $5,000, my event won't go forward. I can't do that. Or they can say, yeah, I can do that, so I'm going to apply for that event.
Okay.
Well, and also, when we say city events, we're paying for the road closure, but we're still partnering and getting a lot of money coming in. The tree lighting, didn't $8,000 come in from the community foundation to pay for that, help pay for those costs?
That's correct.
We, the city, aren't incurring all of those costs. We're not paying for all of events. We're saying we're going to pay for the road closure portion of those events.
Right.
I just want to be clear.
Be very clear. And you were. And you are. Okay. Okay. Now, does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll try.
Okay, go ahead.
So I will make a motion that we limit the total number of special events to 8 per year, with 4 events in the fourth quarter and 0 in the first quarter as a change from what's in the resource guide. That for 2025 events, the deadline to submit an application if you want an event in the 2025 year is January 31st, 2025. That for 2026 events, the deadline to submit an application is March, is it 31 days in March? 31st, 2025.
Yes, on a knuckle.
That the legacy special events are Halloween, the Christmas tree lighting, and the Christmas parade. And that we are directing staff to bring back the resource guide to reflect those changes.
Sounds right. Does that sound right?
I will second that and offer just a small amendment. Do you want to still include the possibility of one additional event per calendar quarter in that, or do you want to limit it to 8, period? Because we did talk about that.
I want to still include the
floating one.
The floating. Okay, it wasn't in your motion. I want to make sure that we included that for, so if you're willing to.
I want to still include the floating one as an option and not change that.
Excellent.
And I also want to, when the resource guide comes back, move the, percent cost payment in advance.
Perfect. I'll second that.
You revised your second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember No?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gottberg?
Aye.
Mayor Clarici?
Aye. Well, thank you all very much. That was quite a conversation. Dennis, great job. Staff, as always. Community, great job, as always. I really appreciate it all. Now we're going to get down to some really kind of budgety kinds of things. So, it can take off. You should stick around. This is where we spend hundreds and thousands of dollars and millions. No, nobody cares. Okay, 12.2. Wow, this is a lot. Consider budget liquidations from the ARPA fund totaling $181,491 for certain capital improvement program, CIP projects and equipment, a $770,420 budget appropriation from the ARPA fund for police patrol division personnel costs, a $770,000 $420 budget liquidation from the general fund for police patrol division personnel costs, and budget appropriations from the general fund totaling $770,420 for previously identified CIP projects, equipment, and an $88,929 contingency for unforeseen expenditures. Mr. Warren.
Good evening, Mayor Clarici and members of the council. So this is a housekeeping item to secure $770,000 in unobligated ARPA funds. You may recall in March of 2021, President Biden signed the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, to assist the country in recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. The act provided funding for state, local, and tribal governments, including $65 billion for cities nationwide. Since 2021, the city has received $2,796,005 in ARPA funding and interest income. ARPA funds must be obligated by the end of this year, 2024, and expended by the end of 2026. To date, the city has obligated $2,025,585 of the $2.7 million in ARPA funding, leaving $770,420 in unobligated funds. The identified uses of the $770,000 in unobligated funds are shown on page 4 of your report. For example, $600,000 in ARPA funds have been identified for the Public Works Department Corporation Yard, which is in dire need of improvements. In order to secure these remaining funds, it's imperative that the city obligate the $770,000 before December 31st of this year. Otherwise, those funds will revert back to the federal government and be used elsewhere. To date, the city has expended over $1 million in police patrol division personnel costs in the general fund during fiscal year 24-25. Staff is recommending the city council liquidate $770,000 in police patrol division personnel costs within the general fund and reappropriate those dollars to the ARPA fund, which would obligate those funds. In exchange, staff further recommends that $770,000 in previously identified uses for unobligated ARPA funds be reappropriated within the general fund. Staff's recommendation also includes $88,929 for a general fund contingency for unforeseen expenditures, which the budget currently does not have due to budget constraints this year. By doing so, the city would not only demonstrate obligating the $770,000 before the December 31st deadline, but also fully expending those funds by 2 years earlier than the December 31st, 2026 deadline. Staff has reviewed the proposed actions as compared to the ARPA guidelines and shared this strategy with the city's auditor, the Poon Group. The Poon Group did not express any concerns with the strategy from a ARPA guideline single audit standpoint. Staff respectfully requests the City Council to approve the proposed resolution to secure the $770,000 in unobligated ARPA funds. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions for staff? Is there any public comment on this? Can I get a motion?
I'll move staff's recommendation.
I'll second.
Can you ask for the vote, please? Vote. She's ignoring me now. It's terrible.
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember No?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gottberg?
Aye.
Mayor Clarici?
Aye. Thank you very much. 12.3, consider increasing the youth NFL flag football early bird player registration fee by $8 from $179 to $187 per player, effective January 1, 2025, and increasing the youth NFL flag football post early bird player registration fee by $8 from $189 to $197 per player, effective January 1st, 2025. You know, you'd think the NFL had enough money, they would just pay for this sort of thing, but I guess not. Mr. Nishihara, please.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Before you, you have a staff report indicating some of the increases. As you may note in our staff report, this primarily has to do with the minimum wage increase as of the beginning of this year by 50 cents to 16. I do want to also highlight the fact that we have an amazing youth fund, and so although there may be a fiscal impact comparatively throughout the market, youth sports is very expensive, and where we are in our price point and the types of services that we offer, it's a significant quality for the type of service that they're getting. So I know that increasing fees in any way, shape, or form does kind of seem a little leery, but at the same time, if we are able to provide some support for more socioeconomically disadvantaged individuals, we do have those opportunities available. With that, you have my staff report, and I'm available for questions.
Are there any questions for staff? Is there any public comment? Can I get a motion, please?
I'll move the item.
Sorry.
What?
Just one thing, it states in here that they'll take effect 30 days. It's actually 60 days for this fee.
Oh, so it'll be February 1st, or February.
Well, 60 days from today, so
Okay, so
February 10th.
Okay. Thank you for that.
I'll move the item with that amendment.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Vote, please.
Sorry, was the second by Councilmember Yarbrough?
Yes.
All right, roll call. Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember No?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gottberg?
Aye.
Mayor Clarici?
Aye. And actually, flag football is a heck of a lot cheaper than Little League, because I think they're rolling in about $400 now, so, which is insane to me, having actually run Little League. It's nuts. Okay, but not the point. 12.4, consider authorizing the sale of five police department vehicles that have been deemed as surplus property to Next Gen Alpha Upfitting in the amount of $30,000 and authorize the chief of police or designee to execute a contract for services and any related documents. Designee, would you like to report on this?
Thank you, Mayor Calorici and council. In the past, surplus vehicles from the police department were sent to auction, resulting in unpredictable sales prices. To explore alternative options, we reached out to Next Gen Alpha Upfitting, which is a prominent emergency vehicle upfitter in the greater Sacramento area, and they've been building our cars for several years now. The owner of Next Gen Alpha assessed the surplus vehicles, and they're willing to purchase them in exchange for a $30,000 credit to the police department. As part of this agreement, they'll remove and return any equipment that we want to retain for future builds, as well as remove all decals from the vehicles. Previously, PD employees or volunteers dedicate many hours to removing equipment and decals from the vehicles before auctioning them. By selling the vehicles directly to Next Gen Alpha Upfitting, we would save valuable staff time and achieve a better financial return. To illustrate this, the last two vehicles that went to auction only netted $5,302 after fees, whereas Next Gen Alpha Upfitting is offering a credit of $6,000 per vehicle, which is an approximate 22,000. I'm sorry. The cost to upfit one patrol vehicle is about $22,000. And any questions?
Do we have any questions for staff? Public comment? Do I have a motion? What? All right.
I just had a question because I didn't get a chance to review the attachments, and so I realize that you can't respond directly to me, but I'm asking the council. Is there a way that we could offer the vehicles, not necessarily in this particular case, but maybe looking forward to our local public and selling it privately? I realize that there's a cost associated with, decommissioning the vehicles. And what was, the Blue Book value on these vehicles? Thank you.
What's that? No, she didn't. No, she didn't at all. Okay. I don't imagine you know what the Blue Book value of those vehicles were, or maybe you do. Maybe you do.
I do not.
Okay. I think for the future, we will think about that. You okay with this? Okay. Thank you very much for your comments. And they're thought-provoking. We should know. The auction kind of gives you an idea of what they're worth. I mean, I don't know what you could get for a used-up police car, but they're pretty spent by the time they leave us. Isn't that the case?
They are pretty spent, and the discussion we were having is there is no Blue Book value for emergency vehicles.
Oh, you see. Thank you. You see, so that was good. Good question. So we know there's no Blue Book value on an emergency vehicle. Okay. All right. Do I have a motion?
I'll move staff's recommendation.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we get a vote, please?
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember No?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hotberg?
Aye.
Mayor Clarici?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council reports from other agency meetings, El Dorado County Transit Authority.
We adopted a revised CIP and awarded a contract for security video upgrades.
Yes. Did you evaluate your manager or what? You went into closed session.
Oh, that's true. We did do,
Okay.
same as we did tonight. Everybody's getting their employee reviews.
That's right. El Dorado County Transportation Commission.
We had a public hearing for citizens to give feedback on the public transportation.
That's right. Oh, we also found out that the Camino wayfinding report will be delayed because they got so much comment and input from the folks up there that he wanted to delay it a month, I think, and something like that. And Woodrow Deloria got his evaluation as well. Okay. LAFCO. Ooh.
We did the MSR update for Cameron Park.
Oh, that's always fun. SACOG, there's a meeting next Thursday. I will be going. They won't let me be the chair, though, which is really sad because I was kind of looking forward to it. Pioneer Community Energy Board.
We meet next week.
Great. Placerville Fire Safe Council.
I just wanted to mention, I mentioned it earlier, all of the city of Placerville are fire-wise. They were renewed for 2024. So you can take these certificates to your insurance companies, and some of them will give you a discount, some better, some worse.
I don't even want to talk to my insurance company. I'm afraid if I show them anything, they'll just cancel me. So, yeah.
No, I brought it to mine, and all you do is send it to them, and I think I got like $67, but I know someone else who got like $300.
Yeah, I've heard some good reports
it
back
depends on
real money.
Yeah.
And Opportunity Canucks, continue.
We had some administrative items for 2025.
Oh, that's exciting. Okay. Are there any requests for future agenda items? Oh, I'm sorry, public comment on what we do. Thank you for that. Okay. Hi, how's it going? Okay. Requests for future agenda items. I don't hear any. Okay, we have plenty to chew on. City manager and staff reports. Police report. Anything unusual?
Attached is the spreadsheet for the November stats, and nothing unusual.
Any questions on that? Okay. Do we do them? I think do we do public comment individually? Okay. You can do it at the end. Well, we'll do it, yeah. Fire. Fire report. Hey, I've been here a long time.
That'll be provided to you in January.
Okay, thank you. Development services. Departments, development, permitting, statistics for the month of November. Mr. Rivas.
So if you're looking at the graphs, you could see there's been quite a significant reduction in November from 2023 to November of this year. So, but sometimes that's typical in the wintertime, but still we're looking at a downtrend. We're hoping that things will pick up because in the planning division, we have a significant amount of larger projects that are still in the planning stages, waiting in the wings, if you will.
Great.
So, hotels and subdivisions.
Don't say the hotel word.
Hotels.
No.
Anyways, that concludes staff's report. Happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for staff on that? The Wildfire Resiliency Planning Workshop?
I would like to get your opinion on how you'd like to do this. This is a program that the county has been doing. That's a fairly, and I think former mayor council member No, received a request on this also, but they asked for an hour to do a presentation, and they wanted to do it at this meeting. I said, no, this meeting won't work, sorry. We've got a few things going on that it won't work for this meeting. But I told them, though, I'd like to see, maybe the council would like to do this either like at a special workshop or something like, rather than your regular council meeting, because I think it'll take, and I've been through it, Councilmember No, you've been through their presentation, right? And I think Dave has, and Pierre was there also. So we've been through it, and it's fairly significant, but it's important information about what they're planning. It's along those lines, as you recall. There's plans to actually the county received, I believe it's $25 million to do home hardening and fire resiliency, if you will, through other activities that they can do. So it's along those lines and sharing that information about what their plans are. And it will, although it's through the county, a big portion of what they're doing will affect the city of Placerville. So it's important. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. We can set something up in January. We could do like an hour prior to our regular council meeting if you want to do something like that, or we can find another day.
No different than doing
whatever
an hour-long closed session.
Yeah, whatever you would prefer. I told them I would get back to them after tonight and let them know how we can do it. So
what do we think of it? What do we think about an hour before one of our meetings? Just like, almost like a closed session allotment.
Well, if we have closed session at 4, are we talking 3 to 4 then?
Or we do closed session, come out, do this thing, and then have a meeting.
Or we do a workshop.
Or we do the workshop, closed session, meeting.
I mean, it would be challenging for me to make a meeting prior to 4 just because of my regular job.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it another day.
Yeah. Not to say that it's like impossible for me to do that. It's just, it's not easy.
No, I understand.
Like if we picked Tuesday, January 7th in the evening, could we do that?
Isn't that
Planning commission meeting. but-
Oh, those planning commissions. What about Monday?
What it sounds like you want to do a special meeting rather than, that would work better than, so why
Well, yeah,
don't
'cause if it's-
I'll work with City Clerk O'Connell, and we will send out a kind of a survey.
There you
find
go.
out some
Survey
potential
monkey.
dates. Now that I know how you want to do it, we can come up with some dates and see
Monkey.
what we can do.
Survey monkey. Okay? We good with that? All right.
Yeah, I'm good with the special.
Parks and Recreation Commission meeting schedule.
At our recent commission meeting, staff presented a recommendation which was agreed upon to switch the day from Wednesdays to Mondays. We're going to keep it on the same week, but we're going to switch it to Mondays based on staff schedules and resources. The caveat is on January and February, the third Mondays are holidays, so we'll reschedule those for different days with a priority to focus on orientation, board roles and responsibilities, and kind of get everybody in the right vein strategically.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. All right. Any questions about that? Okay. All right. Does the public wish to comment on any of our manager and/or staff reports? Apparently not. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, item 16, upcoming items. You can read those. And item 17, we will now adjourn. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you to staff. Thank you to the commissioners. Welcome. Commissioners, that was what I was doing before. To all the council members, and welcome to our new council member, Ryan Carter. As I said, I will take you out